Remix to the remix. And welcome to the Loyal Locals podcast. This is a Jerry list podcast, unfortunately tonight, and so we have everybody here. Can you guys hear me repeating in here?
No, actually, it sounds great.
Hear you great.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
sounds good. Our audio is off and rolling. We are off and rolling, and we have a great guest here tonight. You can already see he's here. Yeah. We have Mr. Cesar H. Football in the house. We have Mr. Presidente Esteban. How you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm hanging in there. Still kind of recovering from that 94th minute goal, but life is pretty good. Life is pretty good here in San Diego.
That was a rough one.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like it just stung you a little bit through the whole weekend, but the Padres lifted us up last night, and then
they did.
Not so much.
They did. So thank you all listeners for tuning in one night late. I decided to take a night for the Padres game. Jerry was prepping and is now prepping for his vacation, his well-deserved time away. So, we pushed a night. So,
do we know where Jerry's vacationing? I'm a little jealous. Where's he going to go vacation?
Jerry's going to Sedona to take some time away with the family.
Nice.
Yeah, he said he's got a nice house with a pool, and he's going to turn everything off, all the social media. He's like, don't contact me. Take care of shit with yourselves. So we're on our own, man. We're on our own. It's a little scary. We always have Jerry. Jerry's like Mr. Reliable for contact and for help. But you know what?
Yeah, and now you
we'll
got
be
me.
all right.
Sorry. Just a couple of things going on here early on. I had actually the YouTube stream in the background and another window open. I'm like, why is my voice playing over and over?
That's why.
And that was maddening. So sorry, everybody. But we've sorted it out. But yeah,
I mean, I've
have you, man.
Thank you. I've always said also like with you talking about like the echo or whatever, and I don't know if I actually talked about this the last time I was with you guys. I feel like I talk about this every podcast. But in order for a podcast to be successful, something has to go wrong in the beginning. Like there has to be someone's. But I had my camera issue like before I joined you guys. Like that went wrong. Like Drew had his thing. It's like you need something to go wrong to kind of get it out of the way in order for everything else to be fine. Say, for example, Loyal allowing a late equalizer. You deal with it. It's fine. At least they're still undefeated. At least they're doing all right. And that can kind of be like a reflection point, kind of a silver lining. Just kind of,
Usually weekly, I'm the thing that goes wrong because I usually sign in about literally 30 seconds before we start recording. It drives Drew and Jerry crazy, but
I was the last. I mean, I was the last one.
This time I was here. So
I was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But
speaking of the 94th minute goal and drowning our sorrows on the draw, what are you drinking, Caesar?
So when you guys asked me today to be on the pod, I was like, dang, fingers crossed that I have some sort of San Diego beer in the fridge. I was like, please.
The liquor store
and then, there's one a few blocks away, so it probably would have been too tough. But luckily, the girlfriend, she got this a couple days back. We still have a few more left. The Society Pupil. Big fan of this. I do love Society Pupil. Their IPA a lot because I'm a very basic beer drinker who loves his IPAs. But nonetheless, I think this one's delicious.
It is.
I'm definitely a fan of this one.
It certainly is. Drill, over to you.
Nick likes my new wall setup. Thanks, Nick Duffy. Our MRI most recent immigrant to the locals there, Mr. Nick Duffy. I don't know if he wants that title or not. But this background is I'm not actually at my house. My house is going on the market this week. I'm at my brother's house. He is going on a cross-country road trip with my two nieces. They left on, yesterday.
God bless him.
We're house sitting them while we're showing our place. So it works out. Kill two birds with one stone.
That
That's
does work
also
out.
why our technical issues are kind of out of sorts tonight, because it's like, hey, we're on the road and we're doing it without our amazing engineer, Jerry. So the guy who giving me his house did provide me with some beer. Hecho in San Diego here. The Si Senor Mexican lager by Salto Norte Brewing, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
It's a Frontera themed brewery. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. So
it is
perfect. I like some of their stuff. Yeah, like at first, I don't know, I was like a little like skeptical about like the whole marketing of what they were trying to do. I was like, all right, this feels a little weird and gimmicky. But then I had some of the beer. I was like, you know what? I'm down with it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like it.
Usually good beer fixes most things, right?
I know, right?
It's
I know.
tied in with that Modern Times consortium, so they've got a lot of that,
Yeah.
brewing knowledge, and obviously made a lot of great beers over the years. Steve, what are you drinking there? I
Yeah,
see some leaves.
Myself some Pure Project. It's called a
Yeah,
Kusanagi.
nice.
It's a murky double. And we had to look
nice.
it up. Kusanagi is a Japanese samurai sword, so pretty
Oh,
badass.
cool.
But Pure Project makes some amazing beer. I live up here in Vista. They just opened their Vista location. It is literally the closest brew to my house. And it's about 2 miles, and it's dangerous, but also awesome. So, yeah, cheers. Cheers, everybody.
It's a double-edged sword of sorts.
It is.
It's like a,
Oh,
just like a
yeah,
samurai
there we
sword.
go. That's
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful brewery. They do great conservation work as well. They've kind of got a mission along with
For sure.
amazing beer and the most beautiful can designs in San Diego.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else can stack up to their just kind of beautiful one-pane designs that they do on those
I
cans.
know.
It's pretty cool.
So
yeah,
let's
man,
jump right in. Let's jump right in. So
from
before we
beauty
get
to dismay, but yeah, go ahead.
before we
I
get
took us
to
down a dark road, but go ahead.
before we get to the game itself, one bit of news that came out just before the match was that Miguel Berry was recalled to Columbus.
Yeah.
And that was, I was super bummed to hear that. It was kind of almost bound to happen. Corbin, who tunes into this podcast regularly and is a huge contributor to our Discord, there you are, Corbin. Kind of called it, I think, either the morning of or the day after, the day before, because of the Gold Cup call-ups. And Miguel is obviously a forward owned by Columbus Crew, so they were looking pretty light. He was obviously finding his form here. Pretty bummed. He was really playing well for us. But
yeah, that's really unfortunate.
Kind of
that's
is
really
what it is.
Yeah, it's important, especially after Jack Mayer having to leave
Yeah.
as well. And obviously he's killing it, and like he made an immediate impact in MLS. What he scored in his first game with the
it was
Crew.
like his first touch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a little that must be a little rough for fans to not only deal with that once but twice. And I guess there's something a little inevitable about that when you have a player on loan, that if they're doing well, then they, those teams that own their contract might want to like bring them back, or if they have some sort of issues, they might want to bring them back. But it seemed like he was really clicking in the front, and yeah, now I feel for
he
fans.
was kind of the engine for a while there.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see that, the train's still there, but the engine, we've got a different engine up top now, and you're hoping that Corey Herzog can kind of drive some action, or somebody like that can kind of step in who hasn't had maybe too many goals to their name and now has had one here to get it jump started and keep moving from game to game. So I think that you'll see more and more of that as maybe they can get more goal scorers. Somebody like Jack Blake, who can score a lot of goals as well, as just started heating up. So you hope
Bangers
that
only.
going, but it's tough to see with Barry because he's part of the community too. He's a kid from the community.
Yeah.
So you feel like he's one of our own, and then it's tough to see him have to go play for Columbus. Great organization, great coach, but you want him to use him. If you're going to recall him, use him, Caleb.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So at least Jack got on the field and he scored. That was awesome to see. And so it's like with Rubin, with Jack, it's good to see them go and then have an impact. And especially Jack, I was listening to the game and they're like talking about how he had being here had an impact on him and obviously helped his career. So I think in some ways it's nice to be known as that because you're going to get a lot of players like now with Ibarra. You see this with him and he's sticking with the club. But to have that story where a player can come in at the, kind of end part of their career and feel like they can find some love again for what they're doing, not just, maybe from a standpoint of losing how they were playing, but finding a new way to play as well. So I think that's what's been kind of fun to see these guys elevate and see Barry from year 1 to year 2. He's a much more complete player.
Yeah,
than
for sure.
When
I
we
thought so.
started watching him last year. Than when we watched him at USD. So it's been fun to watch that progression. But anytime you see that MLS loan, I'm always thinking, when are they going to get recalled? That's in the back of my head every single time. And Corbin did a pretty good job tracking it as our inside Columbus. He's got binoculars at the practices for all we know, letting us know. But that's why you got to get on the Discord. You'll find out probably a day or two ahead of time that this stuff is going down. At least you're emotionally prepared for it in that case. But let's get to the game. The game itself was pretty fun until the last minute or so, but it was. That's what happens when you only score a goal. But kind of first half was pretty back and forth. I felt like it was pretty, chances from both sides. I don't think that we were dominating too much, but it felt like we were playing our game, which is nice. We've seen certain games this season where we haven't. Steve, do you have any comments kind of leading up to?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Last season we were so much more of a kind of a counter press team when we finally found our success in like a 4-3-3. And this year, it really seems like we're finding strength in possession. I mean, I think it was 61% possession. I don't have the halftime split numbers, but it seemed like that first half of the game we had a lot more possession, and we just couldn't find the back of the net. And it just talks to the Miguel Berry situation we just spoke about. Like, we just need goal scorers, and Herzog has the track record of being a goal scorer. And yeah, I mean, he scored in the 62nd minute today, and we'll get to that. But like, we need a little more pop in that final third. And it's almost like so interesting that I think we talked about this last August a lot when we could not find a goal for our life. And it's a team coached by Landon Donovan. We have plenty of attacking talent, and it just seems like there's kind of one little thing missing in that front final third that somebody like Barry kind of added. But for some reason, the combination of Jack Blake and Guido and Herzog and Toomey, like they just can't seem to find that final pass, that final clicking kind of gel that's going to make it all work together. So I think there was a couple good chances in the first half. You really want to see something like that go in. And then obviously, we got that goal in the 62nd minute. Herzog, it was a beautiful turn by Jack Blake. If you guys haven't seen it, go back and watch it. Go back and rewatch the game. At least find that clip. It was pretty beautiful. That's the kind of stuff that makes these superstars, in USL stand out and make them go from, Jack Blake won at Real Monarchs in 2018. He won the whole thing as the captain of that team. And now here he is in San Diego leading the front line. It's those moments that we need. We need more of that to create that kind of spark. And obviously that spark created this goal. We just kind of need to find more of that. And maybe not just come from him. So yeah, please go ahead.
What was interesting to me is that it wasn't just the goal. It was that literally a minute or two later, it felt like the game was potentially like the win was potentially going to be secured for Loyal. And I have some notes here that I took down from that match. It was just, Charlie Adams, he intercepted the ball in midfield, goes to Guido. Guido finds Blake, and Blake, I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I tried rewatching some highlights. I'm not sure if the shot was off target, if it was deflected by some Sacramento defender. But just 2 minutes later, you're thinking, all right, Loyal's going to potentially find a second one here and just cement the win. You thought, like, right here, at just a minute or two after getting that 62nd minute goal from Herzog, you thought that they were going to be able to get the win there. That ended up not exactly happening. They justifiably sat back a little bit, and unfortunately, they allowed that late equalizer. And I don't know. At that point, like, you don't want to nitpick and be like, oh, it was that defender's fault. You don't want to think like, oh, maybe if Montgomery, if he would have had that opportunity the first half, I mean, he hit the woodwork too early on the first half. He almost scored as well in the first half. You don't want to like nitpick these kind of things. So I think from my perspective, I think in a season as long as a USL championship, I think, and I'm forever an optimist whenever it comes to any kind of situation, but I think in a season as long as a USL championship, you take a step back and you look at where Loyal are currently at and where Loyal were at, let's say 4 games into the season, where they had those 4 defeats, where it looked like there's some early, warning signs. We're like, what's happening here? What's the issue with the team? But now, when you take a step back, when you look at the context of the season, I don't know. Like, I know some fans. I mean, you could see it with, like, when I rewatched the highlights from the match. I mean, you heard the boos. You heard the people who are clearly and understandably frustrated after the late equalizer from Sacramento. But I think in the context of the situation, like, I don't know, like, Loyal, or I think they're fine. I think they're okay. Yeah. I think they're still in defeat. They, outside of Phoenix and outside of Orange County, I can't really say that any other team. I mean, obviously you look at the standings; they're in third, so obviously no other team has been better than them so far. But from the little bits that I've watched from every other team in the Pacific Division, I can't comfortably say that they're better than Loyal so far this season. So yeah, it was I can understand why fans would be heartbroken. And I think we could easily nitpick, like, oh, maybe Montgomery should have done that. Maybe someone should have stopped that cross. But
Sure.
I don't know. I still feel like this
It's a
team
dangerous
is,
road to go down when you start cherry picking stuff like that, right? Because you can
yeah,
do it from the first minute on to the 90th minute.
Yeah.
And just because you allowed the goal in the 94th minute doesn't mean that the mistake in the second minute wasn't almost as critical, right? So it's a very slippery slope to go down. But one thing that you mentioned was sitting back, and that's something that I've been griping about on this podcast and
that's
kind of
fair.
in general.
That's fair.
Over the last couple of weeks, because it seems like we're getting in positions where we score a goal and we're in a lead, and then we make a decent defensive sub, and that's exactly what happened here. 81st minute, Colin Martin came off for Joshua Yarrow, and that's clearly a defensive substitution, right? That changes us from a 4-back to a 5-back. That's really just like we're going to park the bus for the next 15 minutes and just wait this game out. And I do not like that. I mean, maybe that's just me being, I'm not a coach. I'm not anything, like, you know what I mean? I'm just a sideline, podcaster, but I want to see us play the whole 90 like we were playing it before that sub, because obviously stuff was working, right? We were winning, even if it wasn't working great, because we only 1-0 on a game that probably should have been more than 1-0. But overall, like, I don't like that kind of mentality. It's kind of like, oh, we're up, I'm just going to sit back and kind of hold on to this lead instead of just like playing our game. We don't need to we're better than Sacramento. We don't need to kind of let them start controlling the match and you kind of like let them have the fate in their hands when you do that. And I don't like that kind of mentality.
In defense of you, Steve, like I think in defense of that statement you just made there, I think maybe it's something with loyal fans wanting a big statement win. And obviously the win over Phoenix is a statement win. That's a huge win there. But when you look at Loyal's results, a lot of them they're very narrow. It's not big significant wins. They're very, very closely fought, like 2-1 wins, 1-1 draws, 2-1 wins, and obviously the first 4 matches were a little bit different. So maybe it's this kind of like this desire from loyal fans to see a team like Sacramento and think, why can't we beat them 3-0? Why can't we get a 4-1 win? When you're looking at Oakland roots, and I'm sure you guys are thinking, like, why can't that be a 3-0 win? Why can't that be a big result? And I wonder if that's part of the frustration that a lot of these results have been really narrow. And I mean, when you do take a look at them, I mean, it's just it's like 2-1 win, 2-1 win, 2-1 win, 1-0, 1-1, 1-1, 2-2, 2-1. It's a little. I guess it could be a little too close for comfort for some fans. Yeah.
And then Drew, I'm sorry, I keep talking over you. I want you to get your word in here too, but this seems like a good time for me to chime in with some of my research that I've done today. I got pretty sick and tired. I'm getting pretty sick and tired of seeing clubs put in late goals in halves against the club. And so I did some research, and there's been 8 goals within the last 5 minutes of either the first or second half this season. Wow. And and that's, I believe we're 5-4-3, so that's 12 matches. 8 goals in 12 matches within the last 5 minutes of each half, and that's not great. So that tells me that they're losing focus. Maybe Landon's not making the right subs. Get off the tired legs and put on the right players, and don't change your position too hard or your formations too much. I just saw a comment saying if Metcalf was off and Morgan Hackworth was on, that cross could have been prevented. I'm pretty sure that cross came from our left back, not our right back, but I could be misremembering. Regardless, it says something. There's a trend there, right? And kind of, what does it mean? What is it, Drew? What do you kind of pick your brain here?
I think the problem, as we said this a few podcasts ago with parking the bus, is it's going to come back to bite you. You're inviting pressure, and inevitably one of those is going to go in, and this was one of those, and it happened to be the guy we were giving crap to as a section before the game, who came back to the section and started kind of striking, and we're like, okay, this guy's going to listen to us and actually try and do something. And it's really unfortunate that he's the one in the cross, but it was a well-placed cross, and guy on his shoulders or not, you're inviting that ball in if you're sitting that deep and you're not trying to catch them offside, or you're not trying to play the ball out more instead of just kind of pinging it back and forth and then inviting the pressure for a corner after a corner after a corner. We see this late in games. How many corners did they give up late in games? Would be another stat I'd like to see in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Time versus what they do the rest of the match, because I think it almost is equal. It feels like
Yeah.
it is. And then you'll see things like, and this would be a question from me, is who's the one keeper who kept a clean sheet? The one
Yeah.
keeper
Oh,
Definitely, I think definitely against a different.
This is not a hot take, but I'm not
Wow.
going to go there and say that. It's
are you
true,
saying
but I'm
you'd
gonna say that
you'd rather have
is
okay?
Trey experienced enough to position center backs late in games, and what the managers are asking him to do is that, but he's not able to push them a little bit more forward. I don't think that's the case. It just happens to be that the one time that he was our keeper starting, that was also the time we had a clean sheet. And defensively, we're extremely stout and really didn't have a lot of, decent chances from the other team. That, he made a few very good saves, but I think otherwise they were positioned very well. So that's a good question as well, is are we positioning well enough late in the game to wrap it up? Because even against Phoenix the last few times, it's become much closer than it needed to be late in games. And that's what's going to come down to in the playoffs. That's really what's going to matter, is that last 6, 5, 10 minutes, what it is.
That's an interesting question, because I feel like, I think what you're implying there is maybe Austin Guerrero should potentially be the starter after he got his
or play more,
or play more. Because after getting that shutout in that game against Oakland, I think that's still tough. I don't know. There are certain things that I do not envy from a coach's perspective, and from a coach's perspective, I do not envy having to choose some of the recent starting goalkeeper positions for Loyal, because I don't know, since it's been their history has been short.
Though. Muse makes saves that nobody else can make, so that's the other side of this. Is
I think it's a
really
tough decision. Last season, like Kempen was incredible, and we saw Guerrero, who was incredible last season too.
Kempen was everything, right?
Yeah,
and so he's hard to measure against. Versus he's a starting MLS goalkeeper in my mind, right?
Yeah.
Versus what we have at this level, which is trying to sort out a kid who is MLS talent and has that pedigree, and then somebody who's been around and has a little bit more experience, I think, and plays the ball out a little bit more. Sorry, Cesar.
Yeah. No. I just think that it's a, because I don't know. I don't know who I would choose between Muse or Guerrero, because I feel like they're both fantastic options. I don't know. Like I think Drew makes a good point that just like, Guerrero was fantastic in net against Oakland, but I don't know. There's a lot of potential with Muse too. So it's just I do not. Yeah.
I think it's hard, but my gut says to stick with Trey, because some of the stops and some of the work that Trey's done this year, I just don't think Austin does. I think he's a really good goalkeeper. I think he's a great backup goalkeeper. But the only way Trey's going to get better at maybe, organizing the center backs and improve communication is by playing, right?
Yeah,
and so you've got to work. There's some instance of development here that later in the season, if we're taking on all cylinders and Trey hasn't played, and all of a sudden you're like, well, now Austin has found a slump. Now we got to put Trey, we got to put Muse back in, and he hasn't played all season. He's not going to have improved. You know what I mean? He's not going to have gotten better at that. And really, if and when we make the playoffs, I want to see Trey starting in goal. He just has that knack. I mean, we talked about him so much in the first 4 matches of the season when we did have those 4 losses that it could have been much more. It could have been way brutal. Like that Phoenix game away, that first game of the season, that could have been 7-8-0 without him. So
it's not on him to captain the defense, right? There's more experienced players out there, and Stoneman and others that you should be able to close out these. They should be able to close out these games.
Right.
Yeah. There's something there with that back line that's just not right. And again, I was just questioning: is it maybe a keeper intervention, because we had one that saw it out, and the other one, unfortunately, he's been the product of a lot of those late goals. Steve, all of those goals were against him while he was in net, but it's, again, most of them were to very unguarded sides, or in the case of late runners, weird stuff where defense should pick it up and have an answer for that. Sorry, go ahead, Cesar.
I would say perhaps the conversation is also just like less about the goalkeeper in this situation, just realizing that I think it seems like you've had a lot of changes between the central defensive partnership there. The last 4 games, you've had 4 different partnerships there. Against Phoenix, that was Yarrow Mayer. Against Las Vegas, that was Yarrow and Stoneman. Against Oakland, it was Montgomery and Yarrow. And the last game was Montgomery and Stoneman. And it's understandable why you had to make those changes. Obviously, Stoneman, in theory, would be a start, but he had to come back. Mayer looked like he was doing good, and then doing well. Then he had to go back to his club. So some of these decisions haven't been exactly
And
ideal. Yeah.
And
Go ahead, yeah.
Vankadzeli is out on international duty. He's been
Yeah, with
gone
French,
for the
with,
past
winning.
2-3 weeks with French
yeah,
Guiana. So
with French
yeah.
Guiana, yeah, and
Yeah.
he could have been. He was this close to being gone for the rest of the month too.
I know.
If a penalty shootout would have worked out in the favor of French Guiana
eight
too.
to
So
7.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so like things, so things obviously like have been a little more fluid in the, I guess not exactly for better but for worse, with some of that central defensive partnership. But that's actually something I'm like, if I had to nitpick something about Loyal, and obviously some of this has been a little difficult with injuries, with players who aren't available, and with players who eventually went back on loan. It's just what is the best central defensive partnership? Because I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
That's
I
a
feel
really
like
good
there's
point.
yeah.
And then another
Yards
point
great,
that I'll
but
make
he was
is
cut out in a couple of those, and same with Stoneman, same with any one of our players here that you can point to and say, there was that one game or there was that one spot.
Yeah.
It's been a team effort, but it's trying to find that pairing, as you're saying, and especially if you're going to go 4 at the back, you got to figure out that anchor and that cornerstone, Steve.
And another thing I was going to mention is one thing I was really worried about coming into the season was depth. And I mean, we've kind of seen some rotation up top. Guido's been on and off injured and trying to get him some rest and optimal playing time. Herzog and Barry have kind of been rotating, but it seems like Charlie Adams and Colin Martin have played every minute. Colin Martin got subbed off, but Charlie has played every game. I think Colin has played every game, and it's been a pretty packed schedule, right? They had that Tuesday game, they had a Saturday game. This past Saturday, there's next Saturday, then there's Wednesday. Like, it's a pretty busy schedule. And one thing that I was pretty worried about was depth. It really kind of doesn't seem like we have a backup number 6 besides Charlie and Colin, kind of maybe double pivot or 2 in a midfield 3. Jack Blake's been playing a ton too. It seems like there's something and then that kind of ties back to also the end of the game and end of the half thing. There's mental fatigue that goes on. You can definitely lose your focus. So, Thomas, good point, Corbin. Thomas can definitely play. That's the number 6. We did see that in one of those games. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that because he's been gone. But I don't. Then again, he's been playing so much he's been playing so much internationally that when he gets back, it's not like he's rested. You know what I mean? It's not like he's had some time off. He's going to be tired too. So I'm kind of very interested in how maybe this midfield might find itself some rest. Because on the bench, I mean, Sal Zizzo was always kind of an outside player. He hasn't really seen the field too much. We got Morgan Hackworth on the bench. He's definitely an outside player. Who can slot in there at the midfield to really give these guys a spell. At the same time, when we find ourselves in a skid like this, it's a skid. I mean, we're winning, but that 94th minute goal is really messing with my mind, guys. But you want to see guys win. We want to see quality players come in. So
I think actually what you could do. I mean, sorry to kind of jump in here, but I think what you could do is like, just because of the way that Jack Blake kind of cuts in, and I think based off of like what some of his like previous roles that he's had before he showed up to Loyal, because I was like when he first like joined Loyal, I was like, all right, what position does this guy play? And I was talking to, I think it was Alan over from the Fairweather pod. I was like, I can't tell if this guy is a defensive midfielder, a center midfielder, or right midfielder. And it looks like he does actually have some experience as a center midfielder. And you can actually kind of see that when he plays in the right and he kind of like cuts in a little bit. And what I was thinking is like maybe something that Loyal could try is just, if some of those players in the center of the midfield needed a break, is you could have Jack Blake in a central role. You can have Guido being that right midfielder who then cuts in as that Jack Blake. Because I think Guido actually did that a little bit last season, where he started on the right a little bit defensively, but then in the attack, he kind of like cut inside. And that could be something there. Yeah.
Last season was definitely a 4-3-3 when we had all those, when we were clicking, it was a 4-3-3. And Guido definitely played kind of that right forward, kind of an inverse Messi who finds himself kind of floating inside. So,
well, I was going to say Blake is the one who ends up on the ground on our team this season the most has been Blake. And it's not because he's taking the hits, but he's also going after tackles nobody else would, because of that, I think, defensive mindset somewhat. When he's not on the ball, he wants to get the ball back. And so he just hustles who's ever on the ball and does that press pretty well. So the question is, does that work as well? Obviously in a destroyer form, he could do some version of that. to gain possession back and get them the ball back. And I think that might be maybe where they could apply him when we are up late, instead of having him all the way up top, pulling him back a little bit and having him just go after wherever the ball goes to. And that's a solution if he still has that legs, because he seems to have great legs on the ball too late in games, where they're trying to get it to him up top. But if you can't get it to him and you're still dropping back and taking those hits, that's where you end up with a 94th minute dagger.
Yeah.
But I feel also,
Go ahead, please.
I'll say, like, I guess if you were to say, like, any other final thoughts, I do understand that why some fans, like, obviously I'm like an optimistic fool who are just like, oh, look at the bright side, look at the glass is half full. But I understand why some fans, after seeing that late equalizer, they feel a little negative. I think part of that too is not only wanting that big statement win, but there are like a couple things here. The first thing is Loyal could have potentially had, what is it, 1, 2, 3? It could have been a 5th consecutive win in a row, and to see that stolen away from the last minute, that must have been incredibly painful.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing too is that I think a lot of Loyal fans, when they look at the standings, even if they casually watch Sacramento Republic, they see how erratic they are, they think that that's a team that they could beat. And after seeing that draw, they look at the schedule and realize, even though Loyal are at home, they're going to have to take on Orange County after that. They're going to have to take on Phoenix after that. So I can imagine why it's a little crushing to think that should have been, like, in theory, when you look at the path towards a top 4, it's like you defeat teams at home like Sacramento, and then against teams like Orange County and Phoenix, well, maybe you know where I'm going with this.
But if you get a point, you're happy. Yeah, it's a different metric for sure, and I think that's where we're unbeaten still at home. It's nice to feel that, but it was like, kind of, as I said, the fortress has been strong, and we got a sniper hit, right as the battle was ending, and lost one of our best soldiers or something. That's kind of how it felt at the end there. It was just, it was rough. It just kind of took the sting out of it, and but it was just it's a weird game, weird day, right? Weird time. Started at 4 p.m.
It was in the day, like, did you guys all wear sunscreen? Hopefully none of you guys got, like, sunburn.
Umbrellas, yeah.
Okay, they're umbrellas.
Aspects of the game, I think, it just made it kind of an odd ending for sure. It just kind of felt like it was like it's only 6 p.m. Like, all of it was kind of weird, right? Like, it just kind of felt different.
It was different. It was a little different.
4 beers in, sun still out. What's going on?
I know. But what else was different was
what's going on here?
So we selected Corey Herzog as our man of the match, and we finally got to give him his custom Dr. Pepper bottle.
If you guys haven't seen that, cool.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, either watching right now or listening, go find it. It's on the Loyal Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Our art director Travis, who is just incredible and incredibly creative, did a custom Corey Herzog Dr. Pepper logo. I'll back up a little. If you guys don't know, Corey Herzog is obsessed with Dr. Pepper, like absolutely obsessed. So for the man of the match, we gave him his own Dr. Pepper, and of course the growler as well. So he got to imbibe with both. But
was it cold? Was the Dr. Pepper cold?
I don't believe so. I think the cooler's only big enough for the growler.
You could take it home, put it in the fridge, and then enjoy it later.
Yeah.
And enjoy the beer's usually cold though. Yeah.
What would a mixture of Dr. Pepper and a growl, like a pint, taste like?
Like a stout, maybe a Dr. Pepper stout. That'd be
let us know, Corey.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, he will actually. He probably will. No, Corey's awesome. It was cool. It was really cool to have him up. I've been kind of waiting for that moment. I don't think Travis is tuned in tonight, but hopefully he listens tomorrow. Shout out to you, because you always cease to amaze me. I'll say that.
It looks good in pictures, but like up close, it's legit. Like,
I know, it's amazing.
Looks legit. So it's one of those things where you could put it on like a pedestal in a museum someday.
Yeah.
That's how good.
All right, ready to move forward. Moving our eyes forward. So Saturday is very exciting. Our first cross-border match. Drew, you called it Fronterabowl, the title of this podcast. It's pretty good.
That was the joke, because it's not
like pretty good
for anything, right? We're not really we're not playing for anything, so it's like kind of how the bowl games are, just sort of this, like, what is it for? Fronterabowl. There you go.
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. Kind of my first thought was I'm super glad that they didn't do this in preseason, and I'm super glad they didn't do this last season. Like as cool as it would, last season, it's cool to, it would have been cool to see, but we actually get to go to the game. They played 1904 earlier this preseason, and we weren't allowed to go. Kind of felt like a match that we got kind of gypped out of, the first kind of San Diego versus San Diego team. And here we are, San Diego Loyal, the club we support, against Tijuana Xolos. Again, this Saturday, 5 p.m. at Torero Stadium. And it should be a blast. Caesar, you've covered the Xolos for many, many years.
Yeah.
Kind of what are your first thoughts, first reactions? Give us a kind of summary of what you feel about this coming up.
Well, I think it'll be fascinating to see what they actually look like, because there are a lot of questions about them right now, because as is typical with Xolos, they tend to make managerial changes quite quickly. I guess that's actually kind of like standard for Liga MX. I think I saw somewhere that the average Liga MX manager lasts, I think it's like a season and a half. And by season and a half, I mean Liga MX season and a half.
Yeah.
So that's
a little
less than a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this team. I could talk about what you might see tactics-wise, maybe some key players, some new additions. But what most fans might find interesting, and what many Xolos fans might find interesting, and I'm sure there's a little bit of overlap between the two, between loyal and Xolos fans, is that apparently Xolos are supposed to announce their new jerseys tomorrow. So which makes me think, and everyone's thinking, that Xolos might be debuting. We'll see. We have no idea. There's nothing confirmed yet. But Xolos might be showing off their new jerseys for the Liga MX season at Torero this weekend. So fingers crossed that actually happens. You never know. Liga MX teams, it's not just Xolos, but most Liga MX teams don't tend to be the most accessible when you ask questions like this, when you try to get interviews. So you have not entirely sure if that will actually be happening, but my assumption is
I heard they gave you the number for Jolo Mayor.
That's gnarly.
To talk about this stuff. And
exactly.
You just hear like a tense silence on the other end.
Well, here's something. Xolo Mayor is going to be at the game this weekend, but yeah. So hopefully, you guys will all get to see the new Xolo shirts. I assume if they're going to be showing them off tomorrow, they got to be like they've got to bring them over to the friendly. My assumption is that Tijuana press are assuming the same thing too. But
you've seen it, haven't you? You've seen it, right?
No. Actually, no. Actually, I would honestly, if there have been times I've seen leaked jerseys. I might say something, but Schultz never beat their Star Wars promo, which is actually very cool. That promo was
amazing. Isn't still a Millennium Falcon?
It's no longer there. It broke my heart. So for those who missed out on this, so Xolos, they made a big they made a partnership with like Disney's branch in Mexico, and they ended up having these Star Wars jerseys. And I went to that game. And it was weird. It felt like I was like in Disneyland, but Star Wars related, which I guess is now the same thing. But I guess whatever.
Comic-Con meets a Xolos game.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of like Star Wars gear everywhere, and they actually had like they created their injury. They're like kind of like the injury cart. They put a little Millennium Falcon on top, and like it was, and they actually had like this was an official Liga MX game. They actually had stormtroopers like walking out both teams while like the Star Wars, and the funny thing, they had the Star Wars theme playing too, but the funny thing too was that I don't know if it was a copyright thing, I don't know if they had the full, like they only had the first like 30 seconds of like the Star Wars theme, so it was like on loop, and it was like this awkward loop while these two teams were walking out to the field. But anywho, Xolos versus Loyal, there it is. That's your preview.
There we go.
They will not have Star Wars jerseys, but
I know
we'll see.
From my brief, very brief research, the Apertura starts in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
so
they're gonna have
Do you think we're gonna see? Like,
this is their like penultimate? What Drew said.
Yeah.
We're gonna see some starters. We're gonna like, besides the manager kind of questions. You think we're gonna see some the first team, or is this gonna be maybe a B squad?
I think it'll be a mixture. I think it'll be a mixture. I think at this point, Schultz have already had some preseason games. This isn't their first preseason game. They recently took part in a preseason friendly against Pachuca, which was a 3-3 draw, which actually says a lot about the attack-minded style of their new manager, Siboldi. I don't think he'll be afraid to kind of like push numbers forward and really, really try to test Loyal. But I imagine with a game like this, what we've seen from recent games, is you're going to see a mixture. I am. What's more than likely is you're going to see some new signings. You're going to see some starters. And I imagine with a game like this, especially since Liga MX no longer has their domestic cup tournament anymore, this might be the last opportunity for some young players to really prove themselves. So I think it's going to be a mixture of their starters, of their new signings, and also some of the younger players. I highly doubt it'll be their best 11, but I think it'll be a little bit of a mixture of everybody.
Maybe a lot of subs too in games like this sometimes because you have.
You'll see a number of subs. I imagine you'll see a number of subs. Yeah,
for sure. And I was gonna say for Loyal, I think it's gonna be pretty much the same, right? I think we're gonna want to put out a pretty strong side to not, Cholos are a Liga MX club, first division Mexican soccer. Loyal's a second division American soccer club. Like, they don't want to get embarrassed. Like, if both first teams were to play, I think it's pretty safe to say Cholos, is a better team.
Yeah.
So they're also going to want to put out a good. They're going to want to put out a good team.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
At the same time, it is a friendly. We're right in the middle of a season. We just talked about depth and how many games we have right now. So I'm kind of really interested in how Landon and the club is going to kind of manage this. Corbin, I know Corbin just mentioned hoping Hackworth gets on the field. It could be a pretty similar thing to what you just said about the young players. We have those Loyal Select players. Maybe they get on the field and try to impress. Maybe players like Hackworth can see some minutes and maybe they can do some damage. That might kind of springboard their second half of the season, even though we're not halfway through. But second half of the season to some more minutes. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see kind of how Loyal approaches this game too, because I think that they're going to want to make it competitive. Not just throw out a B or C squad and kind of like sit back, but at the same time, I think playing all of the starters and really acting like this is a full game might not be the best course of action either. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, you can even have like a 2-half deal, right? Where they're like, hey,
sure.
We're doing starters, second half, throw whoever you want just to get them on the field. So you can have that shift change too, even at like the 30th minute. And sometimes it's kind of coordinated in that sense where there's been a little bit of a coordination. And I think both sides here, as you said, though, they're playing for pride. I was joking earlier, they're not playing for it. They're playing for pride. There is a sense of, hey, this is the first time these teams meet. Hopefully at some point, maybe in a CONCACAF Champions League. Who knows? That's probably the competitive nature to which they could actually find themselves playing, or in any of these MLS/US/Liga MX send-offs that are being built that feel like different Star Wars franchises. Just like, hey, you get it. Speaking of like, hey, here's a different Fronterabowl. Okay, here you go. It feels like something Don Garber would come up with. So yeah, it's like I'm totally for like let's play as best players as we can, but I don't know if it's good if you can get a different look from somebody like Nicky Jackson, get him scoring. Maybe a goal, get some confidence, and then you're like, okay, I can bring him in. Or Ben Spencer, right, is somebody else who's looked pretty good through preseason, and then through the season kind of disappeared a little bit in terms of getting some minutes, but not getting maybe as much production because Barry came in and took that spot. So I think that's where I'd like to see some firing from people we haven't seen fire, obviously. And somebody like Toomey, too, I feel like is just always
That's
right
what I was
there
going to bring up,
and
too.
Should be able to get a goal, especially against players like this that maybe don't know his speed or kind of the runs that he makes. So those are the kind of guys I'm looking for. But it'll be interesting from the fan element as well, dudes. This will be very interesting. We saw a little bit from Phoenix fans. That was the first real invasion of our fortress. And this will be more of a commingled fortress with an element. Somebody said last time there was 95%. I think that was the Toronto match. Sorry, burping here. From that beautiful sea lager here. Anyway, that was a Toronto match, right? Where everybody booed Josie out the door and Michael Bradley after they lost us out of the World Cup. And so it's a little bit different there, right? You have an MLS team that's from way far away, and there's really not a ton of fan support here. So you're going to see a much different element here, I think. especially because it's Loyal season ticket holders. It's in Loyal Stadium, being Torero Stadium, even though it's the same venue. I think that's suffice to say. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was, a lot of the people who root for Loyal are also Jolos fans, and I hope to God I don't see a half and half jersey, but you might, or a half and half scarf.
There's always a half to half jersey in some of these games.
Oh no!
This half and half scarf though, I would, just because they're two teams that represent a region that I love, not just one city or another, but I do love this whole region. So for me, I hate those things in every match, but this is one where I might actually get one.
So what if it was like a unique take on the half and half, like, or if it was like the front half and the back half, or like a bottom half and top half,
bottom and top.
Yeah. You always see some sort of like, it's always like a diagonal thing, but what if it was just like bottom, top, front, and back? So I don't know. But no, but Drew makes a good point there, because like, I don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I'm genuinely fascinated. I think both organizations are probably fascinated to see what the fan makeup will be, because I mean, as I've been told numerous times beforehand from those working within Xolos, like at Xolos games, with their stadium that fits 25,000 plus, around 30 to 35%. So let's just say like a third of the fans there are from the United States. So that's thousands of fans who make the trip over from the United States down to Tijuana. Because actually it was interesting, because there was someone, I forgot who it was, who asked me a question online after I like promoted the friendly, and they're like, oh, will Xolos like fans take any buses up to to Torero Stadium for the friendly? And in my mind, it's just like, they don't have to take buses up. They're your neighbors. They're there. Beach, they're here. They're here. They might be. They might literally be USD like students. They might literally be living across the street. So I'm fascinated to see what that makeup will be, of like how many fans are Xolos fans, how many fans will be Loyal fans, how many fans will actually be a little bit of a mixture of the two, how many will tend to lean towards Loyal as opposed to Xolos, how many. I find
how many will
really,
wear Manchester United jerseys unrelated to the event that's happening?
It'll happen every game. I see one.
But
Chelsea guy.
But no, I think that's a really good point there, because Loyal's new. We're a new team. Xolos have been around, right? They've had a chance to really build a fan base here, and they've made crossing the border and going to Estadio Caliente, an event. It's not just like a game; it's an event. You go down, you get tacos and beer, and like you have such a good time. And so I'm very interested, and at the same time, super respectful of, say, season ticket holders, Loyal season ticket holders, but have Xolos jerseys, and they've been going to Xolos games forever. And so, like, how do they get pulled? Like, what are their support? Really, like, what do you? How do you? How do you do that? So, like,
for a long time.
So, like, kind of a locals thing here in Section 109. 109 is going to be definitely Loyal only. That's going to be it's a sacred place. So if you are a season ticket holder in Section 109, and you are one of those cases that I was just talking about, and you want to wear your Xolos jersey, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to judge you. We can't have you in 109 for this game. This game has to stay not this game. Section 109 always has to stay for Loyal only. That's going to be probably something we're going to have some conversations about with some people who don't listen, or aren't up to speed on stuff. But it's going to be what it's going to be. So it's just kind of one of those things that we got to keep up. We have to hold that to our own standard. We expect that highly of ourselves. And so that's one thing. But at the same time, like I said, there's no judgment from my side. You have to respect everybody's past and where they've been and what's gotten us all to this point to start supporting this club. The other point of business that I thought of earlier is, to all of our members watching and listening, we're probably going to have a lot of new faces at Torero Stadium on Saturday. There's going to be a lot of people who come to watch Xolos and maybe have heard of Loyal but haven't really given it a shot yet. And now that they're playing Xolos, they want to come to check it out. So everybody stay calm, stay cool, stay collected, be respectful, but bring the energy, right? Let's bring it hot, but keep your cool. Don't don't take anything too far. No trash talking that crosses any kind of lines. Because this could be a real chance to grow the fan base, right? Somebody comes and they go, wow, this is really cool. This is like way better than I expected it to be. That supporter section, they really bring it. Like, this is rad. They might join as a local. They might, if maybe Chavos entices them a little more from a branding perspective or whatever, and they join them. But overall, it's growing the fan base, right? And that's the whole point here. So stay super respectful. Don't take anything too far. I think the next thing we'll get to is La Masacre and, what the kind of presence they're going to be here. But I employ everybody here watching and listening to keep your cool and be welcoming, be open, give them a sticker. We'll have stickers to pass out to our members. We'll have stickers to pass out to basically anybody we want to give stickers to. And strike up a conversation. Tell them about who the locals are. Tell them about what we're all about in Section 109. Tell them about our philanthropic efforts and how much we've helped our community here. Tell them about San Diego Loyal and how much it's trying to help the community and, what we're trying to do here. So this is a huge opportunity at the same time as a really rad friendly. So take that to heart and represent well.
That's an excellent
we're one
point,
region,
too.
we're one footballing community, I think, generally, too.
Yeah.
So I think even as there is a rivalry that might spawn out of this just because of the natural distance and hopefully prevalence of these clubs. Hopefully they both continue to grow as one has grown immensely from lower divisions to where it's at now. And its stadium continues to start towering, into where it is at. And then another club looking to emulate that kind of acceleration and especially the speed at which Tijuana seemed to do that, I think, to a certain degree. So
Rommel,
there is a mirror here. So yeah, you want to hold that mirror up to us as well and say part of what we're doing is inspired by what they've done somewhat, but there is some things to discuss as well. Yeah, Steve.
I was gonna say Rommel asked a question, and I think it's a really good segue. Are there still COVID? And do you know this, Cesar? Are there COVID restrictions preventing people from traveling across the border still? Is the border still closed?
Okay, so actually it's interesting because I ran into a few friends actually. So that one Loyal game against Oakland, I ran into a few friends who cover Xolos who are from Tijuana, who made the trip up, and I was like, and I straight up asked them, I was like, wait, it was like border open? I was like, how is this working out? And they're like, and they were telling me, I think it was because they were press, it was easier for them to cross the border because it was work related.
Okay.
So I'm not entirely sure if fans who live in Tijuana can make the trip over to San Diego. Don't quote me, because guess what? I have no idea. I have no idea. But I was a little surprised to see a few friends from some soccer reporters from Tijuana make the trip up. But they did kind of imply that I could potentially make the trip, because I told them too. I was just like, wait, I thought the border was closed. Like, what if I want to cover some show stuff? And they're like, well, if you're doing some like soccer stuff, then you can easily make the trip down. But I have no idea. I have no idea about fans. Yeah.
If you're down to hang out after we formally end the podcast for some after hours, I want you to remind me to bring this up, because I spoke to them after the game, and I was confused why they were talking to me specifically. I'll tell you that whole story afterwards. So.
Yes, I will. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, so the segue that I was getting to there was La Masacre. What kind of presence we think they'll have? Everybody knows here we have a pretty good relationship with the club. We talk to them pretty regularly. We do know that there's going to be a presence there, in the same place that Phoenix was there in section 111A. So a few sections over from us. I have begged the club to move them somewhere else. Every time I talk to them, they tell me that it's not as easy as that, but I'm still going to beg them because I want them far away from us. But regardless, what do you expect from them not being at their home stadium, being in San Diego? Obviously they bring it every match. It's amazing what they've done and what they do, but kind of what are your expectations having seen them so many times live?
Yeah, it'll be, they're a real proper supporters group, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're definitely out there week in, week out with Xolos, and they definitely bring the energy. If you've ever been to a Xolos game in the Estadio Caliente, they have a packed section week in, week out. And that's actually something that, I mean, not only within La Masacre, but just like the Estado Caliente in general, is that regardless of the fact that Xolos are, I mean, I know I don't want to say, I mean, I guess they are young, but in comparison to Loyal, they have a few more years. They have a little bit more of a decade there, because they've only been around since the 21st century. But regardless of the fact that they only have one title so far, like Xolos, they don't have the same kind of attendance as, let's say, a Tigres or a Rayados or like some of the bigger Liga MX teams.
Yeah.
But for a team of their size and for their short history, they have very, very good attendance numbers, and part of that is thanks to La Masacre bringing the energy week in, week out. And numerous members of La Masacre they aren't just from Baja California, they aren't just from Tijuana, but there's a lot of those guys are San Diegans. All those men and women are from San Diego as well. So it'll be interesting to see how many will show up in a game in 2021. Just because, I mean, there are numerous reasons why there may or may not be a lot of fans. So I'm also, once again, just interested to see how many members of La Masacre will show up. Because I think in the past, you maybe would have had more Tijuanenses, like, making the trip up. You maybe would have had more people who would have been more willing to go outdoors and do something, or just leave their home, I guess, at this point, to hang out with a bunch, thousands of people. At this point, and I mean, just it's called what it is, the pandemic that's still happening. So I'm interested to see how many people will actually show up from the Masacre. But in the past, I mean, they absolutely bring the noise. They absolutely bring the atmosphere and just sing nonstop, like cheer nonstop for the full 90 minutes. So we'll see if they show up. And I'm also hoping that I don't know. There's a part of me that doesn't think that there won't be any kind of like animosity, because for the most part, when I have gone down to Xolos games, like there aren't, like, you do see fights within other Liga MX teams, but La Masacre, there may be just like one or two other Liga MX teams that like they have some sort of, like, I guess you can say, scuffles, if you will, for lack of a better word. But
like bad blood on the field, and
but I can't imagine that there's going to be anything really bad or really aggressive, or there'll be serious animosity against Loyal. I think for the most part, like, it'll be fine.
Our director of events, Victor, is a diehard Leon fan. So when we had him on, he was telling us the story of the rivalry there.
Unfortunately, that is one of the two teams that I will bring up, and I have seen fans
there's that all makes sense in terms of why they would have that kind of rivalry and feeling like maybe they're owed something, kind of in that a little bit as well. So it is interesting to see the history even in a short time there with that club, and this would be written into that, I think, somewhat. I think if you incidents or non-incidents, or maybe even friendly rivalry is what you hope for. I think personally it would be fairly nice, right, to have something when anytime you see them together, you don't go, oh, remember that thing that happened? You go, oh, you know how that happened? It was great. It was really nice.
And like
fantastic to have that
kind of and anybody who's actually taken made the trip down the Estado Caliente, like, will tell you just like about how amazing it is, and just how welcoming everybody is, and how it's just an absolute party, actually. So like, totally. I think it'll be perfectly fine.
They won't let them have actual Xoloquintles come into the stadium, so about that.
Hey, that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool.
I know. I've been pushing Loyal to bring dogs on since day one. I was like, what's more loyal than dogs?
It'd be sick.
Come on. But yeah, that's the hope, right, is that we get there. But there's an obvious kind of orchestration to this in terms of what we're leading towards, which is obviously the P chant, the thing that comes out after goal kicks there.
Yes,
whether or not is something that's obviously goes against the zero tolerance of this club and this fan base, specifically our supporters group, exactly. And so it's a coordination as to how that's going to look, and a dance, I think, somewhat to preempt a little bit, Steve. There is some stuff on that, I think, a little bit.
I mean, tell me that, because I'm fascinated to hear because I imagine when Loyal set up this friendly, they anticipated there was a chance that this would be happening. The good news, and the very good news, is that I will say in the last few years, you have seen a decrease of the goalkeeper chant within Mexican soccer. I was literally at a Mexican national team game in Los Angeles over the weekend, which everybody can like in the Mexican soccer world sees it as almost like the second home of the Mexican national team. It's like after Estadio Azteca, it's like anywhere in Los Angeles. And the big worry was just like, even though Mexico has made progress, the Mexican national team has made progress with the goalkeeper chant. Everybody was thinking, Jesus, in LA, that's a different animal. That's a different beast. I did not hear a single instance of the goalkeeper chant. There was 60,000 plus in the Coliseum. I did not hear a single instance. And while it's really, really disappointing for me to say that just like there are reports of and by reports I mean like people tweeting things out of just like the occasional person in the stands trying to create it and trying to like do it. And while it's disappointing for me to say that like I see it as progress, that there are only individual kind of like moments in the stands as opposed to the stadium saying it in unison. It hurts me to say that that's progress, but that is progress. That is progress. And I'm hoping, so I'm hoping that continues to resonate not only within Mexican national team fans in the U.S. and also in general the Mexican soccer world, but I'm hoping that resonates with Xolos fans. I don't know what's going to happen. I really keep my fingers crossed that they don't do it. And I guess the next question is, what if they do? I don't know. Like,
so I talked to the club today, and that was one of my questions. Just to be honest and open with everybody, it was one of my questions was what would happen, and the answer I got back was the game will be stopped. And announcements will be made. I know that they're going to have some stuff prepared before the game to make it clear that that's not tolerated in Torero Stadium. I think that's something that we're going to try to work on as well, just to iterate the message among our supporters and our supporters group, and just to try to amplify the message a little bit. But yeah, those are a couple things. And to anybody who's listening, for our members, like I mentioned before, if you're a member of the locals and you weren't wear a Xolos jersey, that's perfectly fine. Don't suit a 109. But if you're a member of the locals and you wear a Xolos jersey and we see you or hear you saying that chant, your membership will automatically be revoked, and your any tickets you have in 109 will be taken away. There's no tolerance for that here. It is not okay. I understand that there's history, but I understand there's history there, but that's not something that's okay anymore. So yeah, I mean, I'm super interested too. That's really cool. I did not know about LA. Obviously, we all know kind of what happened in Colorado and Denver just a couple weeks ago with the Nations League final. And that led to the 2-match, no supporters ban. But so you can, while the LA thing is good to hear, then you just go back a couple weeks and you can obviously hear it, and you can obviously see that it's still prevalent. There's still work to do, but I'm very, very interested in hearing and seeing what's going to happen here.
And unfortunately,
we're very interested, but zero tolerance. So I know the club is taking that very seriously. We will take it very seriously as well. It is something that we did here in the very first match, the March 7th match, a little bit. And I think that we talked about this a couple episodes ago, maybe 10 episodes ago, something like that, that we heard it. But it was almost something that, and this might sound bad, but we were almost expecting to hear it, simply because
we had a plan.
We had about 6 months to really build this supporters group, just like the club had 6 months to build a team. So we didn't really have a chance to meet with people and meet with our members and like talk about that. We don't do this here. So the expectation was we would hear it, but we would be very aware to it and go talk to those people. And then we haven't heard it one lick since. So, the matches that we have had this season at home, I haven't heard one shot of it at all. So again, I think progress, but I'm very interested to kind of hear and see what's going to happen on Saturday.
Yeah. And hopefully we don't hear it. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that if we're looking at the trends of Mexican soccer, because here's the thing, this is a very, very, very complicated issue, and this is a podcast in itself to discuss it, because in reality, a lot of the people who are saying it and a lot of people you talk with, we don't have to dive into it too much just yet, but just like they aren't exactly I mean, I guess I'll dive into for just a minute, just a minute. A lot of these people you do talk with, a lot of fellow Mexican suffragans, they're
you have a great insight to this. You've written great articles.
Like they themselves
so.
are not homophobic. It's what I like to equate it with is, I mean, I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna bring it up really quickly. I will admit that just like when I was in high school, there was something that a lot of like me and my friends would say, just like, "Oh, that's gay. That's gay. Yeah. Oh, that's and I equate it with the same idea, and just like me and my friends were not homophobic, but but we were saying something that was still hurtful, and it took until I got to college, and then I became a super hippie over at UCSC. But I was like, man, I was a real turd for saying that, you know, because even though I myself was absolutely not trying to be homophobic, I just used that word lightly, and I did not realize the harm that I was doing. And I think that's the same conversation that a lot of Mexican soccer fans are having with themselves now. Yes, because of machismo culture within Mexican society, there are some people who are being homophobic with that chant. But I will say the majority of soccer fans, the majority of Mexican soccer fans that I've talked to, they themselves are not homophobic. They're just unaware of it. And I think there's been more and more of a conversation about that word. And luckily, you're seeing it trend downwards because a lot of Mexican soccer fans have realized, oh, I need to be a little bit more open to the LGBT community. I need to be a little bit more open to friends who might be coming out of the closet. So I find optimism in that. I feel a little hope about that. And sometimes it is just that conversation with friends. And I have had that conversation with Mexican soccer friends who sometimes you just need to have that discussion with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think just really more quickly on this, there was a fantastic piece of Janely Farias. She plays for the Mexican women's national team. She's openly she's an openly gay like women's soccer player. And she made an excellent point saying that, like, and I think it changed a lot of minds too for a lot of Mexican soccer fans, saying that, you know, when people say that chant, they don't know that sometimes they are unaware of that the fan next to them might be having issues with coming out of the closet. They might be having issues with their own sexuality. And I think when people have that conversation, when they have that discussion, they realize the hate that's in that word, even if people don't mean it. So I'm seeing progress. I think it's getting better, and I'm just really keeping my. I mean, I guess just
yeah.
What we're talking about, really, yeah. Just keeping.
We're talking about articles.
Yeah.
We're talking about articles on this, listeners and watchers. If you guys haven't read, Caesar did a really cool article back in 2019 with LAFC 3252. Was that correct?
Yes.
2019.
Yeah, and how they dealt with the chant.
In The Athletic. I reread that today in prep for this, and it's amazing. So if you guys haven't read that, please do. And we are a little over time here, so.
No, apologies. I could ramble for a bit there. Yeah.
No, for sure. Just a few closing things. So let's make this quick. So you were on our bus ride to Orange County. I think you're the first person we've really talked to, interviewed on the podcast about that. So give us some thoughts, some suggestions, some feedback. Give us like a 5-minute summary there.
Well, I was on beer 3 before I even got to the stadium, so I was obviously having a good time there.
We all were. I was on beer 30 by then.
I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And shout out to all of you guys. Like, it was a little too simple and easy. Like, I felt a little guilty when I saw that you guys were selling tickets. I was like, I don't want to take any spots away from the locals. But then, Steve, you reached out to me and you're like, hey, do you want to jump on the bus? I'm like, hell yeah, I do. Let's go. I mean, it was an absolute deal. It was a steal. You guys provided snacks. You provided drinks. You guys were playing DJ on the way back. It was fantastic. Oh my God, that was like the exact thing that I needed in my life as I was diving right back, because it was shortly after the 2 weeks after I was fully vaccinated. So that was like one of the first big things that I kind of took part in. And I think more than anything else, for those locals or even those loyal fans who are looking to kind of interact with fellow San Diego loyal fans, that's a perfect opportunity. That's like, I don't know when you guys are going to do that again. I don't know what you guys have planned for the future, but that was such a good opportunity just to kind of connect with others within not only just with the locals and also within like the San Diego local community, but just like a little bit of the soccer community too, because I saw like a number of people there that were hanging out with you guys. So that was an absolute blast, and thank you for all the delicious beers and for taking charge of that and for the pizza on the way back as well. That was very unexpected and such
awesome.
A beautiful, beautiful surprise. The most beautiful of surprises.
Talk about the details of that in the after hours, but that was fun. That was really cool.
So thank you guys for that,
talking about the future games. So the next potential bus trips, the easy ones are LA Galaxy 2 away in Carson. It's a little bit of a further bus ride, so we'll have to buy some more beer, but that's not a bad thing. Is August 1st at 5 p.m. That is also the same day as the Gold Cup final. So that is a very interesting, and it's not like we can turn the game on the way there or on the way back. The loyal match is at 5 p.m. The Gold Cup final is at 5:30. So obviously Gold Cup usually ends up with U.S. versus Mexico. We never really know. I know a couple years ago we lost to Jamaica in the semifinals, but
hey, Mexico's have their issues too, man. There's no guarantees.
But so August 1st is the next potential one, and then the remaining two, because we played 2 away for each team in our division, would be October 2nd at Galaxy 2, and then it would be a quick turn to do it again October 20th at Orange County. So later in the season, October. But definitely both or all three are on the table. I know Victor, our director of events, was starting to work on bus details for the first, so expect some information on that as soon as we can. Last time was kind of rushed. Last time was pretty rushed, but this time we're going to try to get ahead of the curve a little bit. So expect information, probably not before the weekend, but maybe right after the weekend.
As Cesar said, the blueprint's pretty good here. We've got a good thing going.
Yeah.
We've got a good system figured out here, so we'll just kind of copy and then copy pasta here a little bit with our.
I mean, if that was last minute, you guys absolutely killed it. That was amazing. Yeah.
It's been in the works for it's been in the works for about a year or so. I think we've thought about this. We had one planned Orange County. We actually took deposits.
Yeah. We did.
Orange County last year. We had to refund people.
And then cover.
I think like 30 or so people. And so yeah, it was pretty far along. So we did have a good blueprint for it, but it changed obviously in COVID, and you have to apply to the restrictions. So it finally felt like the right time. And the good thing was I think we felt like we waited for it, but we waited just the right amount of time. And as you said, it was kind of the right thing for a lot of people, not just yourself, to feel like this is finally something we can do. Traveling as a group or things like that, right? That just didn't seem theoretically possible 6 months ago. So thanks for sharing that with us, and it was really fun. So yeah, we'll talk a little more in the after hours.
Of course, yeah.
But I think in terms of like, your journalistic career, we had no time to talk about it here because we were so into the Cholos game. You're so good at what you do that you.
We have to, yes. One little thing, one question.
You already did such a good job of telling us why you're so good at your job throughout this podcast. But we'll definitely have you on again to dive into that, and Jerry will help us pull out some of those bits. I'm sure Jerry wants to do that, so Jerry will get to do that. But what was the favorite article you've ever done? Since Steve was referencing a really, really good one that I think was one of my favorites for sure. But I've read a lot of your stuff, and I can't pick one, so you have to decide for us, like you're from your children.
What was the most fun?
You have to kill one.
Yeah. I was like because I'm a writer, and we like. What I want to say is I hate every single one of my articles. And I would change.
You hate the least.
I would change all of them significantly. And then what's embarrassing is like every year I'm like, oh, that was my best work. And then a year or two after I look back and I'm like, oh God, that was the worst thing I've ever written in my life. Why does anybody employ me? The most fun. The most interesting, I don't know. Actually, the LAFC one was probably one of my better pieces. That
was great.
I really enjoyed working on that one, especially since The Athletic gives you a little bit more space to kind of interview not just a couple people, but just to really, really dive deep into like what you want to like tackle. And I felt like they gave me the bandwidth to do that. I guess also, this is very, very Mexican soccer specific, but just there was, I want to say a few years ago, I got an opportunity with the Guardian to ask Gladio Suarez, a Mexican soccer great, to ask him what his best 11 was of all time. And like I've just never been more nervous in an interview ever, just because like it's different when you
Daunting.
yeah, it's different when you interview some like I don't know, I'll even throw Landon in there, like Landon or like a current player, but like this guy I was like 6 or 8 or 10 when I was like watching growing up, and then suddenly got like interviewing him, and I just immediately like reverted back to a child. I'm like, oh, who is your favorite left back?
You feel like the kid pretending to be a broadcaster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like, you've built this career. You've done a great job.
Yeah.
I've got my notebook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
I mean,
yeah.
I can't relate to how many people you've talked to and how many numbers are in your Rolodex, but yeah, I mean, when Strundalo came to town with the lights, I was secretly hoping I could shake his hand, and I swear I would like crumble at the knees. Like, yeah, Landon, like as a U.S. soccer fan, as a San Diegan growing up, like he was, I loved his career. I was like, he was like one of my idols. Same with Frankie Haydek, and like, I don't know. I think I would get so like, if I met them, like, oh my God, what, you know what I mean? I went to it's easy to do that.
4th of July parade, like half the dads are wearing like Donovan jerseys. You know, it's like, but that's like the guy that like you're having this conversation with sometimes, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the face of the guy. The guy.
Right.
But it's like, it's almost like there's two of them. Like there is like, he's the same person, but there is like the poster Donovan, and like the person who he was before I knew him as a human being, and then the one who I've gotten to know. And it's not that like they don't match up. It's just interesting that in your head you almost make that dichotomy so that you can like carry on a friendship and actually have real conversations that are like.
I imagine for you guys too, there must be some sort of like, there's like a mysticism of what he was and what he represents currently
for sure.
To like U.S. soccer, or just soccer fans in general, because he goes on beyond that
in so many ways.
Yeah. And then just like people think he's like this, like I think he is an absolute legend, and then it's fast for you guys to be like, oh, that's also our manager for Loyal, who we like regularly chat with, and also like see at practices and whatnot. Yeah, must be fun. Yeah.
I mean, I will quickly.
Fans, you know, and that's what's been awesome, even before he was manager and stuff. So.
Yeah.
I will quickly say I think your 2018 article on Diego Maradona was fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely
people
incredible.
Really people really like that one. Thank you. Yeah.
That was awesome. Obviously,
thank you.
Rest in peace, but that was awesome. So, I think we're going to formally wrap things up. Please plug all your podcasts, all your Twitter handles. Where can people find your work?
Steve, we'll wrap it. Let him plug at the very, very end. I want you to run through locals topics in 30 seconds.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
What to expect on game day. Go ahead.
All right. I forgot about that section in our notes.
It was
sorry.
written kind of in order, but it's
kind
okay.
of not.
But
kind of not. So, game day. We talked about this last week, and we'll talk about this every week. Expect to stand 90 minutes. The songs and chants are found on our website. Learn them, look them up, join in. There's no shame. I lose my voice every week and I sound terrible, but I scream my heart out. Even if you mess up the lyrics, you're at least in voice, singing for the club. So give it your all. That's all I'm going to say. And we have expectations in the section to stand and sing. It's not necessarily a place to come and have conversations. Our one of our leadership guys, Travis, put it really well. When he goes to the movies, he doesn't expect to have a conversation during the movie. If he wants to have a conversation, he'll go out to the lobby. Just like if I want to have a conversation, I'll go get a beer or something like that, because there's an expectation that we want to sing for 90. We want to be loud. It breeds it, right? If everybody else is singing around you, you're going to sing. And if everybody else is talking around you, you're going to talk. And we want to be loud. We want to be vocal. I feel like we've brought it every week, but we want to continue to get better. So it's kind of a mentality and not necessarily just a directive. So keep that in mind. Bum's Barking Lot. The Barking Lot is back every week. Every weekend. 3 hours pre-match time. This weekend's match is 5 p.m. So we'll be there at 2. The lot will open at 2 o'clock. And we will march usually 50 minutes pre-match. So that'll be 4:10 for this week. Please come out. It's a blast. It's a good time. some
Fans who
decently
aren't
priced
locals are
beer, some
welcome. So if
food.
you aren't sitting in our section, you are
But-
welcome to come to the
Yes,
parking lot.
open to
but
anybody.
It's generally for locals, but it is in Chavos and anybody in section 109.
For sure.
But if you are, have a friend who's sitting in wherever, they're obviously welcome as well to come join us early at the pregame. So and they'll
We'll have
march in
merch.
with us. Yeah, exactly. And then they can go to their seats or whatever after that, an hour before the match.
Yep. And then the
About an
last
hour.
last little bit of news. I'm sorry this got saved to the end. I did not organize this well. Our Pride Raiser is over, and we raised over $5,000. Actually,
Oh,
I think
nice!
maybe
Congratulations,
over
guys. That's huge.
$6,000.
That's huge.
Yeah, so we had an angel donor at the end. And he didn't want his name in lights, but I'm going to mention him because it was an amazing gesture. Andrew, the club owner and chairman,
Yes.
he actually messaged the locals account once we finished up and said he'd like to match the donation, kind of as a congrats and like an homage to the work that we've done. So shouts to Andrew, shouts to Espen, and major shouts to our philanthropy director Tom Phillips for keeping up with this all month. He's been logging in every week and updating the totals, and he informed us today that tomorrow, July 8th, Pride Raiser will be sending emails to call for those who donated and pledged for each goal. So please make sure to contribute and actually pay. You pledged this for a reason. Please don't come up short. It matters a whole lot to for the kids here in San Diego that we have pledged our money to. So that is kind of our summary of locals topics. Drew, did I miss anything that you'd like to summarize before we get to what I got to before?
Very important news. Extra.
Good.
Listen all about it. I was going to say read, but that doesn't work. So, Cesar, we want to let you plug your podcast, plug your life, just general. Like,
where can we find your work?
Yeah.
You can find me playing Pokemon Go. Actually, it's pretty.
My most famous Pokestop is
No, I've been doing so most of my work. Whenever I write for a number of people and do a lot of different work, but wherever I do actually do it, you'll find me hyping it up on my Twitter account, which will be at CesarH_Football. I guess you can see it down there. If you're watching live, if you're not watching it live, it's just my first name, CESARH Football. I've done a few pieces for The Guardian this year, some somewhat Sports Illustrated stuff with Enfuego this year. Hopefully, I have some other stuff in the works. It might be coming out soon, and then there are a few different companies that I was working with in the past that I might have some more pieces coming out later on this year. So fingers crossed. I mean, everything's always up in the air after 2020, but we'll see what happens. But for the most part, you can see my ramblings over in CesarH Football. And if you want, you can follow me on CesarH Football on Instagram, I guess. I mean, that's like that. You always
general life. Yeah.
That's more that's actually more Pokemon Go and actually more cat like videos and me talking about the plants that I'm growing in my tiny little patio. And that's about it. But yeah, that's
what about the Mexican Soccer Show?
And the Mexican Soccer Show, of course. That's the podcast that I help co-host. There's going to be a lot of content we're going to be providing over the next few weeks, obviously because of the Gold Cup. That'll be pretty exciting, and hopefully with the Gold Cup, we'll be seeing a U.S. versus Mexico final because that's all we're hoping for, right? Yeah.
And the Olympics, right? And the Olympics.
Yes,
that's right.
So. Yeah, so Mex will be starting the Olympics soon, and that'll be interesting. But then again, you don't get me started on Mexican soccer just now, Steve, because then you'll have me, Steve. You'll have me saying goodbye 20 minutes from now. I promise. Do not don't have me bring up the Mexican Soccer Show. Liga MX, Mexican National Campeón de Campeones, Leagues Cup. Oh, dude, we can go on forever, man. So for the most part, you can find all the stuff that I'm doing and which I will be doing in the future on my Twitter account, CesarH Football.
Alrighty, man.
Well, that's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. This was awesome. We'll definitely have you back on sometime this season before things close back out. Drew, you want to wrap this up? Any more thoughts?
You gonna hang for the post show, Cesar?
Dude, of course I'll hang out.
Yeah. All right, sweet.
Of course, man. Let's go.
We got him. Well, thank you everybody for Mr. Presidente Esteban. I was gonna have you say something like later, and then
Later.
I was gonna throw it. His laugh is enough. And then me, Mr. Drew Steck, we miss you, Jerry. And this is where the music will play. Like, bye, everybody. Take it easy. And the music played. And now we're out. Now we're in the.
All right, we're done.
That's how
we're
it
out.
works.
So little known.
Imagine in your head.
Yeah, little known fact. Actually, in high school, I was a part of a ska band. So yeah.
Oh, really?
A lot of skanking.
Yeah.
What did you play?
I sang with me and my buddies.
No.
Yeah, I sang. Yeah. I used to. Believe it or not, this is actually a very, very toned. What I am now is an extremely toned down version of what
Somebody
I used to be in high
find
school.
pictures. Find pictures.
No, I refuse actually to. I refuse to actually tell you. I mean, the thing is, like, we weren't like. It was just like a short-lived thing with my high school friends. So it was just playing around like. It was like just playing around like just like our local neighborhoods and whatnot. But I actually used to be absolutely. Actually, that's actually what I more so than with soccer. Like I used to be more associated with ska music than soccer for a couple of years in my life, in like junior and senior year of high school. And yeah, so I always appreciate hearing you guys doing like all these ska intros with this and like the Fairweather Pod. I'm like, yeah, I dig this. Let's go. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, Craig's got him too for some of his stuff, which is always kind of fun, either ska or kind of a more brass centric kind of jazzy sound. So it's it always gets me into a good podcasting mood. I'm always like, it's just like it's massaging my ears.
Massaging your ears.
I love it. That's how ska feels to me. I think like ears are always just skanking back and forth like.
Yeah, but so the story of the when I was interviewed, for the Oakland game. So we were cleaning up the section. You know, cleaning up all the drums, all the banners, all the flags, all that stuff. It takes a village, and we get a lot of help. And thank you, everybody who helps. You know, Tay, you were watching, and Tom obviously is there every game before, every game after, helping out. Everybody's helps out. It's great. But we were kind of like at the top of the section. Everybody was walking out towards either my truck or Drew's car. You know, we were all kind of on our way out, and I these two guys start talking to me, and they're like, "Hey, so." Are you the president of the locals? I was like, yeah, that's me. And they started talking to me, and I was like, I mean, they clearly have a Latino accent, and I was like, I was kind of like, do you guys want to talk to Jerry? Because they were like clearly we're from Tijuana, you know, we're writing for this newspaper. And I was like, I'm like, I'm more than happy to like talk to you, but I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. Like, I just my first thought was that's what they wanted to they wanted to interview me in Spanish because they're a Tijuana newspaper. And I was like, I don't speak Spanish. Yeah, that was great. I mean, it was awesome. But my first thought was like, you have the wrong person.
Yeah, you're probably. I think so. You ran into was like my dudes from it's Tony Alvarez and Eddie Beto Munoz.
Okay.
And Tony, I've actually made jokes like this dude Tony from like Tijuana. I'm like, dude, Tony, your English might be fucking better than mine, man. I've always given him a hard time. I was like, because Tony, he's done some like work for ESPN, and then Eddie Beto Munoz does work for Frontera, like a newspaper out there in the Tijuana region. But yeah, no, I'm glad you ran into them. No, I was glad that they were able to they were able to go up, and they're good. They're very good dudes. I like those guys.
I was just laughing at myself. I'm like, I can do what I can, but I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. And they were like, no, English. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they're good dudes. Yeah, I think they would perfectly understand like English.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because we've gotten requests before too of hey, we want a Spanish outlet or whatever. They're saying, hey, okay, let's get that. And Jerry obviously does that way better than Steve and I will ever do in his sleep. So is the case, and he's just so good at it anyway that we're always just like, talk to Jerry. He's gonna give you way better pull quotes.
And he's our communications director. It's just perfect.
About an elephant.
Boom! There you go. That's what.
And you're gonna be like, no, man, this isn't making the article.
That's why I had Jerry. I mean, he's bilingual. Yeah.
But
man, it's a summer of soccer now, huh? It's a summer of soccer with.
Do you guys watch the Euros?
Everything delayed. I did not watch today's match. I did
You
not
didn't
watch
watch today's match?
I watched with
Oh my
No,
god,
I
it was
was-
so good.
Today was in-
our,
it was in a hell
so it
meeting.
was a rough watch at the end, but
Oh, yeah.
it was fun. It was fun to be with everybody. I forgot my cable at our last week podcast host, Nicole.
Oh, no.
Nicole, who might have signed off already, but hey, Nicole. I left my cord there, so when I went back to my house to do some housekeeping and then circled around, watched the game there, pick up my cord, left my iPad. So gotta get back to my iPad now.
It was pretty funny.
It's a circle of life, essentially. Yeah.
So one of my like my best friends in the soccer world, he's this Brit from Manchester, but he now lives in Mexico City. He sent me a video, and it's like kind of funny just to say like the globalization of soccer, whatnot. But it was him in Mexico City hanging out with like 40 other like British people. like just like cheering, be like, "Wah!"
That's
It's like throwing
amazing.
beer, just like throwing like beer everywhere. But like the thing is like it's in Mexico City. It's like it's just like funny to see this like I don't know
That's
because like
really cool.
This global,
yeah, just see this like this grouping of all these like of all these Brits and all these dudes from like and women too, just like from like England, like hanging out, like watching England like pull it off. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, they just
Have you
never
been to
happen, so-
Estadio Azteca?
No, actually, see that's the thing is I've yet to be to the Azteca. It's really
Ooh.
it's something I got to work on.
Yeah, for
Especially
sure.
Steve went.
especially since like we could do the like little Border Express thing over here going on over here in San Diego. Like I'm really disappointed in
sure.
myself that I've yet to, and that was something
Mine too.
that I've yet to work on. But I think I'm gonna try to do it later on this year, early next year. But we'll see. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, we went. My wife and I and a bunch of the San Diego Outlaws went for the 2017 World Cup qualifier.
Was that the one where Bradley scored?
Yes.
That was about 30, 40 yards out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a hell. I mean, that must have been really exciting for you guys. That was fucking
It was-
heartbreak for me.
Yeah, it
that
was-
was a heartbreak
Well,
for
if
me.
you want to
Yeah,
talk
for you
about
guys,
heartbreaks,
that
that
was
was in
a
Columbus. That
breaking
same
the
that
seal.
same
That's
cycle.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. That's true.
But yeah, that was awesome. That was the whole experience. I mean, we flew down like a week before, and then the match, and we flew home 2 days after the match, and it was like because we might as well make a vacation out of it, right? But and it was like everybody's so welcoming and so awesome. We wore U.S. soccer gear like basically the entire week, and everybody was just like so happy to have us. It wasn't like awful or. I was expecting to get some like heckling, but everybody was like, "Oh, you're here for the match? How cool!" Like everybody was so welcoming. And the next match is March of 2022, and I'm gonna try to make it. Obviously, I have obligations. It's usually the start of the season, but I'm going to have a discussion with myself in a mirror and see if I can make that work.
I think that's also the benefits of like North American soccer in general, where it's just that, like. Yeah, there's like a heated Mexico-U.S. rivalry, but like if a Mexico or U.S. fan were to sit next to each other, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
In Liga MX, like if you were to have a Chivas and America fan sit next to each other, it's fine. Portland Timbers, a Seattle fan sit next to each other, that's fine. In England, you can't have like a Man City or like a Manchester United fan sit next to. That's like I don't like in South America, you can't have like a Boca or River fan sit next to it. It's just like there's just no way. So it's just like it's actually kind of nice. Like even though we do have some pretty intense rivalries in North American soccer, it's like you could travel down to Mexico and you'll be fine and it'll be okay. Well, like it'll be okay. Yeah.
But I'll just tell you, it was the most incredible experience.
That's so cool, man. Yeah.
I would definitely go again. I just
being in
gotta make it work.
Though, was a little more intense too than you would have thought, and because it was really nice. Everybody was so nice leading up to it, and then you went in, and it is just like a fortress.
Yeah, I mean you're in the cage up top, and there's armed guards and that kind of stuff. Like it is what it is, but it was cool.
Their hand gestures at you, It's
it was cool.
That's what you're gonna get as an opposing fan there. Yeah.
And Caesar, talk about heartbreaks. I was also in Columbus, November 2016, when Rafa Marquez that header equalizer on the corner kick. Yeah, that was right in front of me.
Yeah.
That was a heartbreak.
That's the day that most of us, we like in the Mexican soccer world, we're like, that is officially the end of Dos a Cero. We like mentally in our minds, we're like, it's over, it's done.
That was it.
It's
that was the end.
We're like, in our minds, it was just like, even if they say Dos a Cero to us, it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
that happened. It was
Well, 'cause
yeah.
And remember for that
Yeah,
match,
yeah.
Mexico scored early, so that the Justice Center
Yes.
was over, and like it was like the 11th or 12th or 13th minute. It was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, then that
yeah,
doesn't matter
yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Then somebody slotted in an equalizer, and then Rafa Marquez, it was like the 80 something minute, the
It would have
header.
been cool to see that historic Crew Stadium go all the way through though, and have that just be like this thing that was just this.
Yeah,
big
now
move
it's
for
new.
the
Yeah,
Mexican national team. Now it's dead, right? But it would have been kind of cool if it went and got retired as like they're like, we just wanted one more game there just to see if we could get them. It was like, but it was. I'm sure it feels great as a Mexican national team fan to say like, okay, we finally got one there. So it's just another ghost, right? That you're exhuming. Like England today, it's tough watching it with Danes who are you rooting for that story. You want Christian Eriksen to be able to go to the final and watch his team play. You want that story for sports. And even the guy scoring it, I'm like, man, whatever. But like for that country, it's great for England, to exhume some of those ghosts, and that's why you're saying like you're seeing this celebration and this kind of jubilation that's gone beyond sport for that country to say, hey, that we're overcoming. In the last year we've had, I think for any group of people to feel like there's some element of that. I think it's it's good to feel that in the Danish too. I mean, nobody thought they would be in the semis for sure and knocking on the door of the final. So especially after what happened in the first game. So it is a pretty cool kind of roundabout with any of these sports to see where that goes. And as you said, in North America, I think part of what separates it is that the teams on any given match day are so close. And that's what's crazy with with CONCACAF Champions League is that level of talent was so split for a number of years, and then it's getting weirdly closer to where like Orlando City SC and any random game might be able to knock off some of the definitely middle players for some of the Liga MX teams, right? But they're still not quite at America or up there. It's just
I think that's the thing too. Just like especially since like, I mean, I'm not working in my Manhattan, so I'll be willing to talk about this stuff. Like I don't care, but just like it's like there's this discussion between MLS and Liga MX fans. Just like Liga MX fans, like we're so much better. MLS is like, no, we've already caught. It's like, no, let's look at it realistically. Realistically, is that like there's an intertwine. It's like it's not one league is better than the other.
100%.
It's like it's just like there's a lot of overlap there. Where's my camera? There's a significant overlap there, and like the only thing like what separates Liga MX from MLS is the big spending clubs, which is Monterrey and Tigres and some of the traditional giants, which is like America and maybe a Cruz Azul. And other than that, if you take away those big spending Liga MX clubs, everyone's the same. Honestly, it's all the same. I think there's
the same people. That's what's
actually, and there's a lot of anxiety within Mexican soccer world about the ownership of like MLS teams are spending a lot of money and actually have been providing a lot of like good like youth development, and Mexico wants to do the same. And but in the end, what I like to say is that like I welcome U.S. soccer getting stronger because Jesus, the only thing that's going to help if Mexico's stuck in the CONCACAF region, the only thing that's going to help Mexico are their opponents getting stronger. And I think with the U.S., the only thing that they can hope for is for their opponents to get stronger. So I think it's like a lifting tide, kind of like
rising tide lifts all boats.
Rising tide.
Mexican national team, somebody like Carlos Vela, right, having an opportunity at a club like LAFC to elevate a league and elevate himself, right? And kind of put himself into a conversation of elevating a league and elevating a sport within a space that's really important too, as you said, Los Angeles and the Mexican national team overall. So I think there is that ownership also happening within both leagues to say, hey, maybe and negatively, I'd say from this way going that way. In terms of Garber and some of the things he's trying to pull, obviously that seem a little bit more predatory. But I think there is a nice commingling right between the leagues to say this benefits both of us to have our talent go both ways and get opportunities either way. Somebody like Rubin, who was getting opportunities south of the border, and then able to come back up here and now start for the men's national team. That's kind of the things that you have that opportunity possibly in the future when you have this kind of player that was, buried one way or the other, but given opportunities in that sense within a stronger pyramid because he had somebody like Maradona willing to go and actually coach that club.
Maradona and Landon,
right? And so it's crazy to have that kind of pedigree, but it's something that speaks to where the sport is versus where it was 15 years ago, where you'd never see a players like that coming back to a lower division or especially trying to build that up because it just wasn't seen as much of a there wasn't structure, right, to even do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even available to you. The resources weren't there.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what I think I've seen since the 90s for me or early 2000s is just the resources that are available to all of these clubs now in every region in the United States, where it used to be like there's no infrastructure, for instance, in the Midwest or in certain cities, right? And so now you have all this different either stadiums, but also clubs and youth leagues and all these things that actually have these, not a pyramid to look to the top of, but definitely a, hey, here's where you can get to and accelerate your career, accelerate your understanding of the sport much quicker than you could maybe 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, where there wasn't really as much access on television to a lot of these leagues. Now ESPN Plus makes it really easy, and NBC Sports made it really easy, and then they made it less easy. But all of those things have made it to where fans can really, feel like closer to home. We're building something that actually emulates what's going on around the world, and that's what's been really interesting for me. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is what is your pick next time for the bus in terms of music selection?
Jesus. So I'm getting married in October, and I'm supposed to be in charge of the playlist. And I've gone through so many different kind of genres in my life. Like when I was younger, I was like, ska's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters to me. And then I was like, punk is the only thing that matters, and punk is the only thing that matters to me. And then I was like, and then after that, I was just like, hip hop is the only thing that matters. Hip hop is the only thing that matters to me. And after that, I think I don't know if this something happens to the rest of us. And then, but at some point in my early 20s, I was like, oh, I guess all the music that my parents listened to isn't actually that bad. And
that's
then
exactly what I did.
Yeah, and then at some point in my early 20s, I don't know what that was for you guys. For me, it was just like, oh, I guess all that Spanish music was actually quite nice and actually nostalgic. So what I'm saying, if I were,
rock, but same thing. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? There's some great yacht rock. So I guess if I was somehow in charge of the playlist, it would be a little bit of ska, a little bit of punk, some disco, some funk, some old-timey Spanish love songs, some cumbia, and actually a little bit more cumbia. So, let's double down on that cumbia. Yeah.
All right, so we just heard October, and we're going to have to now find which date that is and where it is, and we're going to have to be there.
I'm not saying anything because
we will find it, Caesar. We will.
My fiance has made a point to not actually tell other people because she's worried that I'm going to make it too. Because the amount of people who follow me and whatnot, she's worried I'm make it vocal and if people actually show up, it's like I don't know.
I just want to find it and come in for one song and serenade you from the locals and then leave. One song.
I want you to hear drums coming in the distance and go, oh shit.
That'd be so awesome. But no, congratulations.
Thank you, man.
I remember. Yeah, that's pretty rad.
You keep saying girlfriend because you're I know you've mentioned this, you haven't been out that much to socialize and say the word fiance, so it's just hard to
Yeah, it is my fiance. Yeah, she is my fiance.
It's a word that has a purpose to you for a very limited time and then runs away, and then you don't use it anymore after.
See, I feel like as a fiance, you can get away with girlfriend, but when you get married and it's wife, you can't get away with girlfriend anymore.
Real quick,
oh, geez, I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna. Oh, geez, I'm not gonna say girlfriend.
My wife.
All right.
It'll be like. Okay. I'm gonna feel like. Did you guys ever see that John Mulaney sketch where he was talking about how he felt like more of an adult? He felt like more of an adult after getting married. It's just not oh, my girlfriend's gonna join me on this flight. I'd be like, no, my wife, she's gonna join me on this flight. It's just you feel like more of an adult. You're not talking about your girlfriend.
There's an authority.
Exactly.
That word. Yes, exactly.
My wife, my wife is joining me with this. My wife is doing. Don't talk to my wife. I don't know. I feel like more of an adult. Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor's right. It'll happen just twice, enough to sink your soul to where you're never again. I've got to look in the mirror and just say wife, and then you work the fiance out of your vocabulary. Then
to be fair, I've been involved.
Yeah.
Kimberly and I have been dating since 2011, so she's basically. Wow, I feel like she's based. To be fair, I feel like we've been married for the last few years, to be
Yeah.
honest. So,
Yeah, it's a label versus a
Yeah,
status of your relationship for
Yeah,
sure
Yeah,
in some aspects, but it's
My
just
wife and I
crazy
started
because
dating in
labels matter
2010.
sometimes
So-
in terms of like authority and the
Yeah.
way the word sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
So I feel like she's
Huh.
basically been my wife for the last few years. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
I
been
said-
we've been acting like a married couple the last few years. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, my wife and I just said 2010, but it's actually 2009. Sorry, babe.
Oh, does she listen?
Yeah. Got married, and the other day we were talking to my best man Garrett, who's a local, and he's at every game. He was up here at my house. We had some dinner, and we were talking about when we got married. And I was like, "Oh yeah, we got married in 2016," and they both looked at me like, "2015, dude." I was like, "Oh shit, sorry, already fucking that one up."
Yeah,
That's
if you're
pretty
at where
funny.
I'm at, that's okay. But
Yeah.
if I was
Oops.
off by a year, it'd be a big deal because it's our 9th coming up this.
Ooh.
Oh
this year,
wow!
but
Drew,
if it was
so Drew,
10,
you've been
if
married
it
for
was
9
10,
years?
yes. But if it was
But
10, that would be a lot.
Yes,
That would be a
Oh, wow.
mix up.
that'd be a
yeah.
big deal.
Sorry, Cesar. What?
I was saying, like, but when did you guys actually start? Because like, so Steve was saying that they've been. So Steve, you were saying that you started your relationship with your wife like 2009?
Somewhere in there.
What about you,
I don't
Drew?
know. My whole life.
You don't know? Oh man! Oh
2007, 2008. It's murky because there was like on again, off
A
again.
lot of drinks.
Before
A lot of
then.
drinks. That's fine.
No,
It's
no,
all
no.
right.
Before that, and then it was, so that's like the actual time period in which the relationship began. But there was like,
Okay.
mixings of what you would call a relationship that wasn't really a relationship before then. So that's that's
Okay.
where it began. Yeah. 2000. Yeah, because it was 4 years.
Relationships,
2008.
man.
2008. February 2008.
Oh man.
Speaking of
Exciting.
relationships, Drew has been in a relationship with Spurs, Tottenham, who still
Yeah,
don't have a
for about
manager.
that- actually, I've been in a relationship with them for longer than that, and
Do Spurs have a
Really?
manager yet?
yeah, they
do.
hurt me a lot more.
Oh,
they
beats
do.
me.
No, it's been.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We're gonna bring. So we're gonna sell Kane, and we're gonna bring in Raul, and then we're gonna give him robot legs from the money that we're gonna sell Kane for, and we're gonna fix him, and yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna have Mexican national team fans. Then we're gonna buy Weston McKennie from Juventus, and we're gonna have
Tottenham
US
Hot
national team
Portugal.
fans, and they'll all be supporting Spurs.
It's-
and our Portuguese manager, who's not the one.
It's
that
Hot
played.
Portugal.
And then
Hot
Drew's gonna show up to
yeah.
the stadium and then do that thing, that little skywalk thing where they walk over the rooster, whatever that thing is over there. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'll have one arm. I'll be like Elvis, but with one arm of the sleeve will be a Mexican flag, and the other one will be an American flag.
Do you have a Caesar? Do you have a team?
No, I do not. I
Me
refuse.
neither. Yeah, it's team neutral.
Steve
I-
Cesar has no team affiliation except for
Yes,
I-
you're like the
Mexican
first
national
person I
team.
talked to.
I
That's
refuse.
awesome.
I refuse to support any team other than the Mexican national team.
Which is, I love that purity. That's great.
Because here's the thing: if I were to actually do that soccer wise, if I was to actually commit to it, I would commit to so many goddamn teams. That's the reality of it. Like that's
Yeah.
actually they just because the amount of people that I talk to, the amount of like player interviews I do, the amount of like place visit, like I would actually commit to too many teams and like it would throw everything out of sync. And it's just like I'm like, I'm not sure how many people are actually listening now. The only club team that I actually grew up like supporting was Chivas, and like just because my father, like many other Mexican fathers, he claimed to have played for their lower division team, which I'm still not entirely sure if he actually played for them. I've seen my,
It's one of those things
I've
that Dad says that. You're,
That's
yeah.
Oh my god.
The funny
not
is like
sure about the
the funny thing is like I
Mexican
actually believe my dad. I was like, oh shit, he played for like the second division team for Chivas. I'm like, that's fucking dope. That's cool. And then I grew up. It's like, damn, there's a lot of Mexican dads who say that. So I'm not entirely sure if that's true. And actually, the funny thing is,
they're all telling.
That's
yeah,
incredible.
I know. The funny thing is like the first time I specifically remember it, like, so my dad played a lot of like Sunday league, like within like the Mexican like Sunday league stuff in like the LA area. And the first time I saw him, and the first memory I saw him playing, I specifically remember this. I must have been 8 or 9 years old. I remember my mom didn't want me to go to the games because there was once a guy who was angry with my dad who threatened him and chased him out with a knife. So she did not want me to go to these Mexican like Sunday league games in the LA area. But and like my family actually talked about that. but I specifically remember the first time I went to one of those games, and I was like, cool, I'm watching my dad. This guy who like almost made it to Chivas. And then there was like a corner. It was for the other team. They hit it. It hits my dad's head. It goes into his own net. And the first time I ever watched my dad play live soccer, he scored an own goal. This is a guy. This is a guy who I thought was supposed to be like playing. Like I thought he was supposed to be like this great, like beautiful, fantastic player who like should have like made it to Chivas. And literally, I specifically remember like a time, like the first time I ever watched him play, like in a Sunday League game, he scored an own goal.
Nice.
That's amazing. Oh my god. That's
Still,
amazing.
he has better touch on the ball than I do. So I guess I can't say much because I can outrun him, but if we're playing one-on-one soccer in a tiny space, he will dominate me.
We should talk about Barcata. Oh, too bad.
Bring him to Barcata.
No, he'll dominate me. Yeah.
But no, I'm on the similar-ish page on neutral. I'm a totally neutral. Like my thing is, I'm not gonna pick some team 6,000 miles away because Harry Kane plays for Tottenham. Because if Harry Kane plays for Tottenham and it gets sold to City, then what the fuck do I do? Like I don't care.
Steve, I wouldn't have chosen this. The wand chooses the wizard, man. Nobody chooses to be a fucking Spurs fan.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
you're stupid.
Yeah. I agree.
Well,
Steve. Yeah, Steve. I 100% agree.
No, but I'm with you. Like I get that the connection's arbitrary for a lot of things. So I get there's more to it for a lot of people. Like my buddy Tom, I'm not sure if you're still watching. Like he's a Liverpool fan back from the '80s when he was a kid. Like he's a really cool story, and like there's a lot of great stories. But like I don't have a cool story, and I'm not just gonna go to a pub one day and be like, oh, these people were cool, and I like Bruno Fernandes, so I'm a Man U fan. Like because Bruno Fernandes isn't gonna play for Man U for more than 2 or 3 more years, and then he's gonna be gone. And then what then? Like, was I a Bruno Fernandes fan or was I a Man U? Like, I want a connection. So like, I kind of refuse. And so my good buddy that I met through the Outlaws, Paul Marshall, local and season ticket holder, everything. He talked to me a long time ago, and he brought up a great point. He's actually a West Ham fan for this same reason, because he's like, yeah, I refused, and then I went over there and I toured the stadiums, and I had the best time at a West Ham match and with the home supporters. Before the match, after the match, during the match, and he's like, I find myself cheering for them, so now I'm a diehard West Ham fan. You know what I mean? Like, he had to go experience it to like tell himself that I need to have a connection. I need to have an experience to latch onto in order for it to mean something to me. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna just pick a team. I'm not gonna be like an EPL team. He thinks we're all rubes and stupid.
No, I don't. No, for sure. There's a lot of reasons. Like
basic assholes. It's fine.
No, Kim Dice, who's in our leadership, she's a Leicester fan because she traced her lineage. You know, she did the 23andMe or whatever, and like her family history is from the city of Leicester in like the 16th century.
That's super
cool. How cool is this? Like now I want to be a Leicester supporter. Yeah. And she like did this like the year after they won. So everybody's like, you're a bandwagon fan, and she's like, no. Like that's not why I'm a fan. Like I'm a fan because of this. And like it's a cool story. So like it's actually the worst I don't have a story like that. So I like
do better than that.
Yeah, like I want to just wait until I have something to latch onto instead of just being like, I like Robert Lewandowski, so I'm a Bayern supporter. Like, nah, that's not. I don't want that. Like, I fucking love Robert Lewandowski, and I think he's great, but I'm not just gonna pick Bayern because they have him. That's just not.
Steve, it's the video, right? It's what you wrote. It's the manager, the players. The things will change, right?
Yeah.
And so it's what is the consistent about this club? What's the ethos of this club? What are they about as a core? And it's really hard to experience or understand that until you get sucked into it. And for me, that was also part of Spurs' being traditionally a Jewish club, being somebody who was downtrodden on and actually socially, it blighted for part of their run, especially in the 1940s, obviously. But it's that kind of stuff that to me drew me to the club is those historical pieces that other clubs don't have, that made me fall in love. So I think there is aspects of that it has to be unique and it has to be something that's triggered within you. But I think that for a lot of people, Corbin obviously watches 8 different teams, and I know he's got different connections.
That's what
he says it's like, geez, it's like at a certain point, like as we all know, it gets to be too much. Even when you just have like, I'm gonna throw in random match here, and you have different matches on. You like, who's even playing in front of me? Like, what's going on?
Another thing for me is like, I don't need a team to enjoy the sport. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
I mean that's what I mean. That's how I feel. Like I don't. Like I said, the only team I root for is the Mexican national team, and other than that, I'm just intrigued by other leagues and storylines, and
right.
I don't know.
Totally.
Like
I
also like I also like I'm pretty lame too, because like my reasoning for the most part is just like it's just like I guess a journalistic perspective, and because I don't want to like. And especially because in the Mexican soccer world, I learned pretty early on that just like there are a lot of journalists who get accused of having some sort of bias for one team or another. After that, I was like, well, you know what? I'm not gonna. And what happened was because actually, when I first started my journalistic endeavor, I did talk about Chivas a lot. And I had talked about supporting them. But actually, the more I reported on Chivas, the more I talked about Chivas, the more I felt separated from them and actually didn't really root for them. And actually nowadays, I actually find myself rooting against them in a weird way. So I felt like after that, I was like, after that, I was like, you know what? I don't really feel connection towards Chivas anymore, and I'm just going to be kind of blank across the board. Other than the Mexican national team, I'm just blank across the board. I'm just rooting for good soccer and good leagues, good storylines.
And like what else? Like I spent way too many Sunday and part of why I love this club is it's San Diego. I'm born and raised here. There's such a pull and connection. Like there's civic pride, there's all stuff. And what I was getting at was like being born and raised here. My dad was a big football fan. I was a diehard Chargers fan my whole life. Way too many Sundays heartbroken because they lost in the fourth quarter or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now I get to wake up, and if Liverpool is playing Manchester United and Manchester United beats Liverpool, my day is not ruined. I just get to watch a cool soccer game and move on with my life. Where like a lot of people that I know, it's like, oh fuck, it's like it ruins their days because they're diehard Liverpool fans. And that on the flip side, if they won, their day would be, they would celebrate and it would be a great day. So like,
no wonder Drew's so depressed all the time. No wonder Drew's having such a I'm just kidding.
That's why I'm always upset. It's essentially that. But it is fun because I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate it. Sure. And I'd say when I was, a Chargers fan, it was I would punch a hole in the wall, and that would like ruin my whole day. Like that's literally a thing that happened. It's a different type of feeling versus now I can kind of appreciate. Hey, there's another game happening, and does that affect my team in X and X way? Maybe, but like 9 times out of 10, watching West Ham versus somebody, I'm probably rooting slightly against West Ham, but also like when you see an Arnautovic like do something amazing, you're like, that's pretty incredible. I'm pretty as a person who can just appreciate it. I think there is a sense of watching things in that vein that makes it much more enjoyable than trying to have a rooting interest all of the time, because it just does take the fun out of it to a certain degree. For me, I think even the NFL is disgusting and a terrible thing to watch most of the time, but like Red Zone's it's all crack, and so now you can appreciate it if you're like not a fan of a certain team anymore. It's just like you appreciate the ridiculousness of like all the scoring and what's going on, just because of from a certain like neutral sports perspective. You're like, this is just incredible theater in some ways.
Yeah, and something else I really like about the neutrality is like you can kind of evaluate fouls without bias and offsides without bias. You're like, that's offside. Like you're not like, oh, that's not offside. Look at like you're like, no, like it either is or isn't, or that's a foul or it's not a foul. Or that's a yellow card or it's not a yellow card. Like, you know what I mean? And I kind of like
that is until a team wins over your heart. If you were to guess what team would win over your heart soon, what would it be?
I don't know.
If you were taking a guess, no,
I have no clue.
You have no clue.
It's going to take a lot because he's really held to this for a long time. And I'd say it's just like it's not going to happen in one drove. It'll be like, I'm watching like Crystal Palace now, and I think like, and you went there and like
you had to bring up that example
and like, but like no. But
so
like,
my wife is a Crystal Palace fan because she wants to live in a Crystal Palace and she likes their jerseys.
Hey, you know what? I've heard.
They have one of the best historic stadiums in histories as a club.
No, Caesar, to answer your question, it's AFC Richmond. AFC Richmond.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay,
Ted Lasso.
There you go. Yeah.
Ted Lasso.
I've got to watch that.
It's almost them to the championship.
I know. It's just like I know. It's just like,
oh my god.
The thing is like it's like a weird thing. It's also because I'm I'm like, when it comes to watching TV shows, you will find no person who is more terrible than me Like, it's not that I dislike I love TV. I love like. Sounds a weird thing to say. I love TV shows,
put it back on the shelf for like.
But it's just like no. But it's just like suddenly like we've now entered like a legacy like stage of TV shows. We can't just enjoy one TV show. There's now a lot of really good TV out there. There's a lot of really good TV out there.
It's like listening to drug addicts when people.
But you have to watch Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So but
so
I
it's like
and then mix it with a little bit of this. And,
So like, and the weird thing too with me is just that like because I watch a lot of soccer during the day. Like when I'm like chilling, I don't want to watch TV anymore. I want to like do different things, and like. It's tough because there obviously is a lot of good. So like, anywho, so as I've talked about in different podcasts, I'm catching up on TV. I'm watching this new series called Lost. Seems great. I'm catching up on Lost.
You're gonna save yourself a lot of heartbreak.
It's been fascinating so far.
I watched Lost in college. It was great.
It's been fascinating so far. I love Lost. I'm
the last 3 seasons of Lost. That was
this close to finishing Mad Men.
Mad Men's a good one too.
Yeah, so like I like TV. It's just like I don't like dive into it as much as other. Yeah.
It's hard to keep up too because, like you said, there's a lot of good shows, but
there's a lot of good shows out there.
Make time for Ted Lasso, and if it's on like Apple TV Plus, it's not like whatever, but just do the 7-day trial for free, and I guarantee you'll finish it in 7 days. It's like 10 episodes, but it's
Cesar.
What was that?
So Blockbuster. Did you go?
Of course.
Like a
actually,
Blockbuster?
so Kimberly and I have
if TV was Blockbuster, you would go to like the older, like the $7.99 bucket and be like, "What's going on over here?" And pull some of the DVDs. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Sorry, what were you saying?
We actually have an idea. We have like 3 ideas. Just like if we had $1 million, what's the thing we'd open up? And like I feel like some sort of nostalgic Blockbuster like would be like I
watched the last Blockbuster, the one in Oregon. There was one in Bend. That had the rights, and so they like held out forever as like the last one. And he had one there and one in Anchorage, I think. The same
wasn't it?
Kind of
didn't they make it like an Airbnb where you could like stay overnight and like watch movies?
There was eventually in
Bend.
Now it's just a family-owned like video store without the Blockbuster.
I miss video stores a lot. Like
I
me,
know.
like me and Kimberly. Like I know maybe we're just
it's a total. It's an experience. It really is like a thought process and like kind of like.
But like we loved like because like it was like a thing in when we lived in Santa Cruz before I moved out here. It was like our favorite thing was like go out. Get like on a Friday night, go out, get dinner, have a few drinks, and there was like a local video spot, and just like wander around and like get a video, and then like we were thinking just like, geez, if we had like a huge amount of money, we would actually open up like a video rental spot with like a tap room, and like that's what would make like $1 billion. Yeah, right.
And somewhere like North Park, that would do well.
Yeah, right.
You'd have to think so.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what Alamo Drafthouse started as a little bit was sort of that idea, which was like, hey, it's a hangout spot and we sort of show movies here. And then
and isn't that the kind of whole idea of coin op? Like go back to your arcade roots.
Yeah, that's true. That's
you know what I mean?
True.
Like
that's true. That's actually very true.
That'll be the nostalgia that our generation craves. Is just like take me to the video store where I can my Netflix in my hands.
So what's after that is just like we're some sort of like AOL instant messaging room. You can also serve yourself a pint. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Can I have a bunch of creeps hanging out in my who I don't know if
everybody remake your MySpace.
Yeah, 15M or whatever when you had to say everybody, what's your age and sex? And people
it wasn't ASL. ASL was it? What was it like? Age, sex, location. Ugh.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. Yeah. Nowadays, it would be a lot of different answers, much more diverse than it was back in 1996 in these chat rooms. To be fair, So I would be curious to see what that would look like these days. Yeah, bring it forward. 8 tracks, laser discs. That was a thing. Do you remember those? They were like the size of.
That's just like that was DVDs. Right. I feel like that was like right before. I feel like it was right before our generation because I feel like I've only seen like a couple examples of those.
Educational content. They were like
exactly.
Because they cost.
I remember teachers bringing them out, but I never actually was just like I'm gonna go buy one.
And the machines were ridiculous. You would have to flip it like it only played like 30 to 45 minutes of film on one side, and then you have to flip it, and they came in these like record book.
This is the biggest DVD I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it made no sense. And then like 3 years later, they're like, "Oh, here's DVDs. They're this big, and they have you could hold like 3 hours on them." All right.
And you won't believe the special features that they have on this thing. They can now do the audio in Spanish and subtitles.
Well, if you remember, some movies had like 2 DVDs because they were so big
Yeah,
at first.
yeah.
And then after the
Oh,
DVDs
yeah, that's
got
right.
bigger, it wasn't, but like Titanic, I think, had 2 DVDs. Like you couldn't watch the movie without like taking out part 1 and like putting in part 2.
Yeah.
That was early DVDs. Yeah, we got our chat room going on here. ASL, there you go. All 3 of them. Yeah, this is what we like to do. No one cares at all, and then we just devolve into topics that only the 3 or 4 of us care about that are still
I
here.
know.
Yeah. So any other nostalgic feedback? Otherwise, we'll let you guys get some sleep.
I guess I guess it's 11:11. Should probably head out. Yeah.
Make a wish.
I got a meeting at 8.
And,
Oh Jesus, yeah, we should probably head out then.
I
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
get my house ready to show on Friday. So pretty much that's my life now. I just wake up and then try and make my house palatable to anyone, whoever with money who wants to buy it. And so we'll see where we go from there. But maybe I'll live in an apartment complex near you. Anyone coming? Thanks for hanging out. And
All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
thanks everybody.
Thank you, Caesar, for
we're gonna
joining us.
definitely have you back
Of
soon,
course, guys.
for sure.
Yeah, we'll
Have
see
a
you
good
soon,
night,
dude.
everybody.
100%.
Yeah, take care.
Bye guys.
Buenas noches. Adios.
Bye.
Bye. The broadcast.